Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Glad to have you in here with us. Of course, this is Comics News Today for the 18th of July. So, like I said, time is definitely flying. And of course, this is our preamble this week to next week's, or this week actually, later this week, the beginning of Comic Con. And we will probably cover more of the aftermath of it next week on this show. But we're definitely going to be talking a little bit about that. It's the first one we've had since the COOF, and we will definitely see how, some of the things that is going on with it. Seeing as, of course, it's in San Diego, and that is unfortunately in the state of California. Nevertheless, I'm going to go over here and hit that like button and share. Hopefully, you guys will do the same, so we can get as many folks in here to join us and get involved in the chat and have conversations and have some fun today because I definitely have some lighthearted, fun stuff to get into. We're definitely going to continue our Valiant series, which we're going to do for a few weeks here. And I think it's pretty interesting. And I definitely want to see if we can't promote more people to get out there and read Valiant. Because I know when we talk about comic books, of course, you got the big two with Marvel and DC. Of course, you have Image, Dynamite, Boom, and Dark Horse, and those are kind of the big companies. And then you have a bunch of little ones on the side. But the thing with it is, Valiant's actually a legitimate comic book company. It's not just some little thing or with a couple of publications. It's a full-on comic book company, and we'll be talking about that a little bit today. But other than that, hopefully you guys had yourself a good day. I know that for me, I was just a working day, of course, and it's early morning now for me. But nevertheless, let me get this post out. All righty. And we'll see if anybody comes in here and joins us. All right. Very good. So let me go over and check the Discord real quick. Everything seems to be working here quite well. Let me check the Discord and. Oh, okay. Wasp is helping out. Thank you, Wasp. All right, let's bring it back over then. Well, anyway, so we're going to get into a bunch of stuff today and have some fun with comic books, of course. I know that I have not been able to read as many comics as I would like recently. Of course, I'm very busy with all kinds of different things, and it's tough to kind of, sorry, fit that in my time schedule. There's a lot of things I want to catch up on, and one of the things with which I'll get into the Valiant segment, just going doing all the research and make sure I get everything accurate and put together presentations and such is reminding me how much I need to get back and start reading Valiant again because there's certain things they're doing over there that I really enjoy. But of course, we've seen some other comic book companies like Alterna and things that we've certainly been supporting. And Boom, I've certainly liked what Boom has been doing, and Dynamite puts up some good stuff too. But we're kind of in a bit of a quandary with the big ones because Marvel is putting out very little good stuff, and DC is kind of all over the place. So it's not necessarily a great time to be a fan of the big ones, but there is a lot of good indie stuff coming out. Of course, we've seen some is good and some that's not, but that's all right. That's normal for comic books, isn't it? I do know everyone's talking about the Rippaverse with Eric July, and I've certainly seen his YouTube a few times. Uh, he's, just like, excuse me, he's just like one of us. He's the same kind of mentality, and he wants good comic books, and I guess he just decided to do it himself. He's got a big enough channel where he has reach. He went and got some old timers to come and work on his comic book, and good for him, dude. Good for him for sure. And he's made over what $2.5 million or something so far. So I guess I don't know much about it. And when I looked at just some of the imagery and stuff, it didn't look that interesting to me particularly. But I'll certainly be paying attention to it. And the only thing I could say is I hope that he he if he's doing the writing or if he has someone else doing the writing, that it's really good, because you get yourself an opportunity there with such a big. Well, it's a lot of money, but it also means a lot of people are coming in to be part of it. Hopefully, it's really, really good, so you can make more and continue putting out some really cool stuff and maybe become a center for getting some of the other people, really talented people in the industry, opportunities. That's kind of the problem I've seen. We've seen things that have had amazing art. We've seen things that have had interesting stories with not so great art. But we haven't seen a lot, in my opinion, of stuff that is great on both sides coming out of the indie stuff. And a lot of it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I want to see someone come out with something that's just absolutely killer and just takes the comic book world by storm and is able to kind of help to build the industry a little bit. Because, what do we got going on? I mean, we know what Marvel and DC are doing. Image is basically a place where they try to protect the rights of the artist and creators as much as possible. And it's a creator focused, which is fine. Dynamite and Boom are more classic, kind of old school the way they're doing things, and a lot of them are kind of feeding on, as well as Dark Horse, are feeding on IP and such. And that's okay, but I don't know about you, but I've never been a big fan of. I'm definitely having trouble with this today. I'm not a big fan of, you know, going and reading the let's go see the Firefly comic book, or let's go see the whatever IP comic book type of thing. They might well be good, but it's never been interesting to me. I kind of always wanted things to be separate. I don't really care for the whole IP hunting, although I understand there's money in it. And to be fair, when we saw the Marvel was doing DC, doing Star Wars stuff for a while. There was some really good things coming out, and then there were some bad things. So and that would be an IP bring over as well. It's just not. I don't know. It's not my thing. Maybe you guys like it. I just always thought it was weird when I see, oh, that's that TV show, or there's that cartoon, and now it has a comic book. I think the only IP book I ever read that I actually liked was a few. It was just like a limited series. Was like a Thundercats, I think. And it was really well drawn and it was kind of interesting, but I don't know. It's just not my deal. Nevertheless, hello Roger, how you doing today? He says he's got a he puts this up here. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but he got an arm, so I'm assuming that means strong. Uh, nerd exclamation exclamation 100. What is that supposed to mean, Roger? Strong nerd 100%? I don't know. Help me out, Roger. Tell me what it is. But we'll definitely be getting Thunder here in a little while. Maybe we'll get some other people as well. They're kind of wrapping up things they're doing, which is cool. And hopefully we'll get some more people in here as well to join us and have our conversations. But we'll just kind of wait a little bit and talk about other things. I know that I saw the Monsters trailer, and everyone was kind of talking about it the other day, how bad it looked and stuff. And I went and looked at it because I saw some of the stills, and I was like, "Ooh, that's weird." It is being created by Rob Zombie, who loves the monsters. It's a kind of a passion of his. And I went and watched the trailer, and a lot of people hating on it, and I kind of get it, I guess, but at the same time, I didn't mind it so much. It's basically kind of telling an origin story of how Herman and what was it Lily? I guess is her name. Met. Roger says it means I'm hyped 100% and I'm a nerd. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. So am I. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't understand young people's lingos. I know what lol means. Yeah. But anyway, I watched the trailer and I saw some people's opinions on it and stuff. And I don't know, it could be good. The only thing is, it clearly looks like a parody of a parody, though, because the original Monsters, the Munsters, was a parody comedy sitcom of Universal Monsters, right? That's what it was. And I find it very rare that parodies of parodies do well. So that could be a problem in and of to itself. But I don't know. I think I will check out. And yeah, it is Lily. Thank you. And the original lady, she was very attractive woman. Of course, he's using his wife, what's her name, Sherry something Moon, Sherry Moon, or whatever her name is. But he always uses his wife in the movies. And I get it; she's an attractive lady. And she's playing Lily. The only real problem is she's not much of an actress, really. And in the trailer, that kind of stands out. But I have a feeling it's something at first. The look of Grandpa particularly is the weirdest, but it's kind of thing that it kind of the visuals shock you a little bit, but then as you get into the movie, that kind of melts away and you don't care about it. I did see a lot of people talking about the fact that they wish he had done it in black and white. I kind of agree with that. I remember when I was a kid watching the monsters, and when they went color, it wasn't as cool. It wasn't as good. I just really preferred it in black and white. Roger says, I consider myself like Todd when it comes to characters that I love. I consider myself a purist. Yeah, fair enough. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it really, from my point of view, Roger, it really depends on if there's respect shown, right? If the person is, adjusting things or changing things a little bit, but they're showing to respect to the inception. I don't mind that. I know some people do, and that's cool. But I don't mind. It's for me. It's just a matter of respect. Like we were talking about this yesterday, where the Marvel comics and the MCU are not the same thing. And I'm okay with that. A lot of people aren't. I just don't like it when they're disrespectful to stuff. That's a problem. And do keep in mind the MCU is based upon an alternate Marvel comic books anyway. It's based upon the Ultimate serial universe, right? That's what they're basing it upon. And one of the things we saw yesterday, I don't know, of course, which it's just from the basic visuals I looked at. Riri Williams, Ironheart, is being introduced in the Wakanda movie, and honestly, I it can only be better because the original, Black Panther movie wasn't great, guys. It had a couple of good points in it, but overall, it wasn't a very good movie. So it can only get better, to be honest with you, or worse, I suppose. In those imagery, we see that they're introducing Riri Williams in it, and therefore, you know, what came into my mind instantly is like, okay, she's a Wakandan. She's probably going to be friends with Shuri, and she's super genius, and she creates this stuff, and they're completely disconnecting her from Tony Stark completely. I mean, in a good way. And that would be a better character than what the comic book created, right? Because the comic book was, it didn't make any sense. Here you have this girl she's, even from a young kid, she's very she's racist and she's bigoted and she's anti-authority, which is not, that isn't necessarily a problem. And she steals Stark Tech. She steals it. And instead of being arrested, she's taken and he's like, "Oh, you can keep it. Go ahead, young kid. Go off with my highly destructive and dangerous technology. Go have fun, with yourself, young person." It didn't make any sense. And then, of course, the way it progressed is she was more and more hateful in her way, and she just like several of these other modern, especially with the female characters, they make them very villainous. There's a reason why the Fantastic Four and other superheroes have never gone to Latveria and just basically conquered it and took Doctor Doom out of his position because, well, it's a sovereign country. But of course, Riri Williams didn't care about that at all. So it's a really horribly stupid character. And if they can repair it and make it an interesting character movie, I'm okay with that. I know a lot of people aren't. Dave says Ivana DiCarlo, yes, played Lily. She was in John Wayne's Western McClintock. Yeah, she's in a bunch of stuff. She was a showgirl back in the day, and she got her opportunity to get into some movies, and she played a lot of sexy lady type of characters. And yeah, I like DiCarlo quite a bit. Very attractive lady. She played Lily perfectly, and that's one of the problems with the Munsters in particular. It's a great little sitcom. The dialogue and the interaction between everyone was really really good. And there's tons of sitcoms and TV shows that are coming out all the time, and it's always been true, and it still is true. And most of them are not good. It's just the way it works. But the Munsters has endured as Adam's Family as well, because it was really good, tight dialogue, and they were really suited each other. They were very comfortable together. So recreating that is going to be really, really difficult, especially when you have Rob Zombie's girl there, Sherry, whatever her name is. I mean, she's a cutie to be sure, but she's not much of an actress, like at all. And you watch that trailer and you can see that she's always like, "Whoa, that's cringeworthy, dude," and that's a problem because we need to have her and whoever the guy is playing Herman. We need them to melt together. We need them to be, just like the original with Del Caro, Ivana Di Carlo, and what's his face there, Thunder. What was the big dude's name? He was also in like Pet Cemetery and stuff like that.
I
My
don't
cousin Vinny, I
remember,
think he was in.
but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. You're pretty low on the volume, by the way.
Again,
But
that
yeah.
better?
So yeah, a little bit. But we just talk about the Munsters trailer, which I watched yesterday, Rob Zombies, and
Gotcha.
yeah, no, I get why people aren't liking it, but I also think there might be some charm to it.
I haven't
Yeah,
checked it out, but I honestly think it's a good fit because I think Rob Zombie understands that type of comedy.
yeah,
Uh,
but he's making a parody of a parody, though. That's always
yeah.
Rocky, dude. Yeah, thank you, Fred Gwynn. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but the chemistry between him and Yvonne and the guy, old man that played Grandpa, was wonderful. It was just, they were just like as if they had been together their whole lives, and that's what good actors do for you.
Yes.
And I don't know the people in it. The Grandpa guy looked weird, but he sounded right, and he seemed to be pretty solid in his acting. The Herman guy, I have to see it. But the problem with it is you know Rob's wife. He puts her in everything, and cool, I get it. But she's not a good actress, dude.
No, no, she's not
Yeah,
at all. I don't know. I mean, I do know why he does it, but yeah,
it's his wife. Yeah, I get it.
he relies on her a little much, I think, and I don't think she's fit for purpose when it comes to that.
No, I think in The Devil's Rejects, and which is probably his best movie, I would say without question.
Hmm.
And stuff. She's fine in that role. She suits it. And like I said, she is a hottie, and keep in mind she's not young. But
Yeah,
she's
she's got to be
still.
about his age, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. But and I get it. She's attractive, and it's cool for them because you have this hardcore rocker, and Rob Zombie went on to become movie maker and other things. And he's been with that girl for they've been married forever, dude. Right? I mean, forever.
Hmm.
So good on them. I'm happy for them finding marital bliss. But other than her nice ass, which sorry, Miss Zombie, I don't really need much of her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, she's not. She's unfortunately just not a great actress at all. Hence why she doesn't get any other work
right.
except the stuff her husband's doing.
That's right. And usually in the where she does work is where she's not doing much. She's kind of in the background, or she's
Right.
just kind of moving or being there. In Lords of Salem was her, you know, biggest acting push, I would say, and it worked because she doesn't speak much. She's just kind of there, and she can do the look stuff. She can look depressed or sad or scared, or she can do those things. But it's
Right.
when she opens her mouth it's a problem. But
And
anyway,
some
hello,
things you just
Lydia.
can't overcome
Yep.
as an actor. It's just if people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand things like say Morgan Freeman, the way he talks and his voice and his cadence and things. He learned that. He taught himself that. That was not something that he just naturally had, and a lot of his success is because of it.
Yeah, sure.
And he knows that. He's fully aware of it, and it's why he made those decisions he did to alter his speech patterns and his the tone and tenor of his voice
Hmm.
intentionally, so he would get more work. It's a lot of it's out of your control. It's it's stuff that you either can. I mean, yeah, you can correct it with enough time and effort, but even still, if he didn't have the baseline talent in his voice to do that, he just wouldn't have been able to do it, and he would have been. I don't think he would have been anywhere near as successful or an iconic actor like he's become.
Hmm.
And that's the case for actresses as well, especially actresses. If you have an annoying voice as a lady, unless you're Fran Drescher and for some reason they keep throwing you and stuff, you're just most likely not going to succeed very far in Hollywood. You're just not. You have to have that appeal, that draw in something as simple, even as simple as the way you sound. It's very important.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And to answer your question, Dave, I don't think there's much of a question there. Who do you prefer, Lily Munster or Morticia Adams? Well, I mean, come on. Yvonne is way better in her role, and she's much more important. But then again, the Munsters compared to Adams Family is very, very different thing. The Adams family is little, it's like little character skits, right?
Mm,
I mean, that are just happening here or there for the look or the feel of it, and it's fun. I like the Addams Family just fine, but the Monsters is legitimately a sitcom. It's an actual
right.
sitcom, right? It's very different, and therefore, this requires Yvonne to do a lot of work. With all the other Ed Gwynn and everybody else as well. So, obviously, Lily is a better, more fleshed out character than Morticia, just by default. So,
Right. And a lot of people's fondness for the Adams family, especially my generation, comes from the movies that they did in the
which weren't
90s.
bad. Yeah,
No, they were pretty good. They
yeah,
they were cast very well. Like that, the casting was unbelievable.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, but I like the original black and white Adams Family. I watched it as a kid, and I watched it
Yeah.
as an adult too. But it's a set piece thing. It's just different. It's
Right.
not it's not a sitcom. I don't even know the actual Hollywood lingo that I'm supposed to use for what that is. But it's fun in what it is. But the Munsters is no different than Married with Children or Modern Family. It's a actual sitcom, right?
Hmm.
And therefore, and it travels through time. It has, it has seasons. It's a life of this family. Where Adam's Family is more a look at this thing. It's more like a portrait. Uh, but
Sure.
um, but anyway, and I think Yvonne is a much better actress anyway. But she is more of a mother figure. That's definitely true, lady. She definitely is. But well, I think what I was talking about before you came in was I really, as a kid, of course, I was watching in syndication, I think, or maybe not. Maybe I saw it as it was coming out, but whatever. Um, when they went color with the monsters, I hated it. I
Mm.
did not like it. I much preferred it black and white. Some things do better in black and white. I mean, I know for you youngins, you're like, what? Oh, okay, but it's actually true.
Yeah,
But
it is.
I hated it, and he's doing this movie in vibrant neon cheese, full cheese mode color. Ooh,
Right.
I don't know, dude.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
He's kind of in a way he's in a similar vein to guys like Kevin Smith,
Yeah. Oh
where
yeah, definitely.
you either really like his stuff or you really hate his stuff. It's there's very little middle ground. Um, on most of the things that he's done. Like I know people who absolutely hate House of a Thousand Corpses, loathe that movie. And I personally I love that movie. But
Yeah,
I
it's pretty good.
understand why. It's the type of ridiculous horror humor campiness that he was going for in that.
Yeah,
I like that stuff. A lot of people
yeah.
don't though, and I understand that.
Well, his
So I
second,
think with his camp instincts, there's a chance it could be really good. Whether it will be or not, we'll see.
true, and his second movie, The Devil's Rejects, was actually
Yeah,
a really good movie. That's a
yeah.
great horror movie
Dark
right
as
there.
shit. Very
It,
dark
it
movie.
yeah, but it just has so many great notes in it.
Yeah.
But he's very Kevin Smith is a good analogy, of course, because Rob is one of us who got a shot, is what it
Right.
is, right? Kevin was the
Right.
same way, but Kevin sold his soul to the devil, though, most
Yes.
certainly, and Rob seemingly hasn't, right?
No,
Um,
which is weird because he's Rob Zombie. You'd think of all the people who's gonna do it, be him.
well,
But no, he hasn't. It doesn't seem he hasn't. I'd
well,
agree.
and it's probably because he had his own success and money from his own creation, White Zombie, right?
Right. Which was
And
awesome. Love White
and
Zombie.
yeah, and it's still a popular band, so he didn't have to sell out. He could either do what he wanted to do or not. Where
Right.
Kevin was never anything until he got his shot, you know.
Hmm.
And as the time has gone by, I don't know. I have a feeling that he had this health scare here some years back. It did something to him, dude.
It did broke him. I think. I think it broke him, unfortunately, and that happens.
It does.
I'm not judging him for it. I just that's what my observation of it is. He died. He was dead for a bit, and they brought him back, and he I don't think he's been the same since. To be honest, he lost a bunch of weight, and
Yeah.
I just don't think he has the same angst or whatever you want to call it that he had before that. After that, he got a whole new perspective on life. Like I said, he lost a bunch of weight,
Became a
and I
super
think he's
feminist.
yeah, he's very effeminate as well, just in general, as a man too, than compared to what he used to be. He's never been exactly, super macho or anything, but he's even more so now, I would say, than he was before.
Yeah, yeah. Dave makes a good point here going back to the monsters. The original pilot for the monsters was shot in color, and they saw it didn't work. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
I don't. I think it doesn't work. I like the monsters in black and white.
mhm.
Also the oh, what is the Johnny Depp made a movie about it. Where he plays the
Ed
vampire.
Wood,
No, 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 no. He plays a vampire. Something Shadows. Babe, what's that Johnny Depp movie with the
Dark
where he's the
Shadows.
vampire? Is it Dark Shadows?
It
Yeah, it
is.
is.
Yes.
Yeah, Dark Shadows. I like that in black and white too. You because even it just adds a level of intrigue, a level of mystique to it, a level of otherworldliness that when you put it in color, it just kind of becomes normal.
Right.
I mean, it just kind
Well,
of looks normal now.
yeah, I don't mind that movie. I remember the Dark Shadows TV show. It was more of a kind of a, it was like a prime time soap opera, is what it was. But the thing with the Johnny Depp movie, I don't mind it actually. But it's one of
It's
those
okay.
examples of a movie where the payoff was not as good as the setup,
Hmm.
right? Because I think if they made a second movie just kind of dealing with the Wolf Girl and kind of getting into just being Dark Shadow's world, it would have been a lot more fun. But
Hmm.
these concept that everything has to be an origin story. Why don't we say, why don't you give it a shot? Try something, just put us in the world, have fun with it, and if you have success, why don't you do like a prequel origin, maybe, right?
Or you tell it in a flashback or something and
Something like
stuff
that.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But we do have
Um,
a problem with the origin story screwing shit up.
I agree. And the problem is sometimes the problem with there's two problems here. If you have the origin story too much, it gets boring because we've already seen this. But if you don't have anything of it, then you lose a big part of a character's motivation, a big part of a character's purpose.
Hmm.
So my example, of course, is going to be Spider-Man because for the last I don't know 15 years, up until the new movie, they've been very afraid of his catchphrase, of
For
comic
some
books
reason,
catchphrase, I would say.
it's weird.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that's stupid. Like there's no real argument I need to make other than the fact that that's dumb. His catch, great power, great responsibility. Pretty much everybody knows it, and
Sure.
it's correct, and it sets him up morally as the good guy. Just basically having that principle
Hmm.
is an automatic. Okay, well, this is a good person, right?
Well, it's
Um,
the heart of the character, and keep in mind, it's
yes,
not Peter's catchphrase;
that's
it's
right.
Uncle Ben's.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I even liked in Raimi's second movie where he had given up being Spider-Man, and his Aunt May talks him into being Spider-Man again. Her little speech there is absolutely beautiful. If you don't remember it, go watch it.
Yeah.
It's her hero speech. It's beautiful. It's lovely, and it's very much what Aunt May is to him. She helps him so much with just his own courage to be who he needs to be without even ever saying it. Even though I think everybody kind of knows she knew it the whole time.
Hmm.
Uh, I love that. I love that aspect. And when you take away origin stories entirely, you lose that bonding moment. You lose that thing that congeals these two characters together, like Aunt May and Peter Parker, for instance.
Hmm.
Um, and that's dangerous in storytelling because now, if you want to do things with it where there's stakes between these two characters, well, why do I care? Why do I care? If Peter and Aunt May are having a argument, okay, so what? Like I don't see why they're so close because I didn't see them go through losing Uncle Ben together.
No, and
And
they tried to make up for that. Spoilers. They tried to
yes.
make up for that in the recent one, and it was on the edge of. It was on the edge of pushing it. I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think they did a great job as far as at least we now have Peter Parker. That movie explains to you without putting it right in your face. That's why I like it. Explains to you why this catchphrase, why this motto, why this principle that he has is so important to him as a man, one, and as a character for us, two.
Hmm.
Because you have two other Spider-Men who also have the same worldview, the same philosophy, and they explain to him in no uncertain terms why they have it as well.
Yeah.
And
Well, they are
I
better
love that.
Spider-Man than him.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So.
Because of it. And
Yeah.
he learns why throughout the story, why it's so important.
Right.
And that's good storytelling. And what with Dark Shadows, like you were talking about, I don't think you necessarily needed that for that character. I think you could have started, halfway through
Sure.
and just built the lore outwards from there, and then it would have been a better storyline. I think the fact that they started where they did kind of made it, like you said, the buildup was really good, and then there was just no satisfying climax to it,
No.
and that's a problem when you start at the very, very beginning because sometimes the journey's too long. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like the first Christian Bale Batman movie. The ending to that movie kind of sucks, but the everything up to it is awesome. But the climax of it is just kind of okay. Just kind of
Yeah.
he just kind of wins and that's it. And it's just like I don't know. It wasn't very satisfying. But the next movie, the ending is um, freaking amazing
It
because they did
is.
that background work.
But
But
the problem with the Nolan, I'm going to blame Christian. Nolan's Batman is not good. The Batman is not good. In the second movie, it was great because of Heath Ledger as the Joker.
correct, yeah.
But Christian Bale, once again, I don't want to blame Christian because it's Nolan's fault. Nolan's Batman is not good.
Hmm.
It's not good Batman. I think his Bruce Wayne's good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're good movies, but they're not good Batman movies.
No.
I've always thought
No.
that,
No.
and
They're
I
not.
think the new Batman movie is a fucking phenomenal
It's
Batman
way
movie.
better. Oh, dude, it's way
Yeah,
better. And I always felt bad for him because, Christian Bale playing, Bruce. Like I said, his Bruce Wayne was fine. The Batman just wasn't good at all.
yeah.
Some of the glitz was fine, but the side characters were much better. But I always felt bad for him because he got that his love that he's got to have her and he's got to fight for her and there's so many men that want her is such a dog ugly woman. I mean, Bruce Wayne can have any woman he wants, and he's
One.
pining over and can't, and she won't let him have her either, pining
Oh,
over an absolute dog ugly woman.
yeah. No, that was bad casting all the way around. And it doesn't make any sense. In let's be honest, it also is out of character for Bruce to be that way.
Yeah,
Like you're
it
saying,
is.
that's why he's a bad Batman. But Bruce isn't like that. Bruce doesn't pine for a woman. That's just not who he is.
No, we're going to
He
get
has no
into that a
time
little
for
bit
it.
today, by the way.
Bruce is too busy. He's got shit to do. He's got a city to fight for. He ain't got time for that.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, hopefully we'll see because I think you're far more excited about the Batman than I am.
Hmm.
However, what I do think is it set up potential for the future.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we could see a very interesting series of Batman movies. And I'm here for it, dude.
Me too. I
100%.
think a lot of people, I've heard this, that they wanted it to be a little bit more fantastical, especially considering the last one. Well, not counting Affleck, but nobody counts that anyway. But the last series itself, Nolan's, was far more down to earth. And I've said, I'm telling you right now, there's literally no reason they couldn't do Clayface.
There's no
There's
reason.
nothing at all in this world that says yet that he's impossible.
No.
If you tell the story right, if you make it make sense in the world, or if you just don't even really try to like make it make sense, just let him be a good character on his own and just run with it. Let it be a little ridiculous. That's okay, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's a freaking movie about a guy running around dressed as a bat,
Right.
beat people
No.
up. It's ridiculous anyway.
And to be honest
Like,
with you, it kind of had the fantastical feel anyway.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think people are misunderstanding what's going on there, especially that ending. That ending was very comic book, very
Oh yeah, yeah.
superhero.
But I mean the setting, the I mean the sets, actual sets, and
Yeah,
the lighting, and everything about it. It was definitely set up to you could go supernatural super easy with that. Matter of fact,
easy.
the most unsupernatural aspect was at the end where he's helping people out of the water and onto the roof of the arena. I mean
Yep.
that's the most Nolan-esque moment in the movie.
Yep.
They
And that
could,
was the part that I think was, I don't know if that was Reeves's call, because it honestly, some of that ending, I didn't dislike it, but it felt like somebody in like the studio or at DC or whatever watched his cut of it and was like, we need more superhero in our superhero movie, and that's why that ending is there.
yeah.
Because it could have stopped 20 minutes before that, and it would have been perfectly fine. The movie would have been perfectly fine,
Mhm.
I
Well,
think.
that's no, and I'm looking forward to doing next. But to be honest, with you, really, what I really need is
Mhm.
Colin Farrell Penguin spinoff.
Yeah.
That's what I need. I'm all about
He
that.
needs his own series, in fact, just
Yes, he
his own
does.
show where he's the star of it, and we get to watch him be Penguin and do Penguin things. I would love that
It
little
would
mini
be.
series.
And you could
Yep.
definitely throw some supernatural stuff in there as well. Like I said,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I didn't hear anyone say that, but I don't know why you would say you can't go supernatural with this Matt Reeves production. You most certainly can. It
Yep.
felt that way anyway. But yeah, no, cool. So I'm definitely waiting to see, which is good because boy, there's not a lot of stuff I'm waiting for. There's no reason you can't have King Tut or Egghead in the new Batman. No, of course not. Easily.
Yeah. Why not? If
Yeah.
you do those characters well, why not? There's very few of Batman's villains, especially that. Yeah, some of them are ludicrous in concept, but they've been done so well, his rogues gallery, over the years in different ways, that if you just do a little bit of adaptation, it can. I mean, think about the penguin. Penguin's ridiculous. Look at him. He's a ridiculous person, but he works. Joker is ridiculous, but it works. So if you do it right, you can make this stuff work.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of doing it competently.
Yep. I agree. 100%. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do part two. I was kind of hoping Ben would be in here today because, he's a Valiant guy. Maybe he'll show up. Maybe I will summon him again. But I'm going to continue my series here, part two of Valiant. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. And yeah, alrighty. Let me bring this up here.
We got
Keep an eye on the chat if you would. I can't see it on the
sure
outside.
will.
All right. So, like I said, we're kind of doing a series here on Valiant, and the more I research and prepare for this, the more into this I am actually, because it seems to me a lot of people really are not reading Valiant, and I think that personally is just a shame, because this is a real company.
Yep.
And they have a lot of good books, lots. This isn't just a few title company. They have a full universe, and there's a lot of stuff to read and get into. Phenomenal art as well, often. I want to kind of today. I want to get into a little bit of more of how Valiant came to be, a little bit more of the backstory and history of it. And interestingly enough, it kind of starts out in a fun way because I know a lot of you guys probably know this stuff, but after Stan Lee, quote, big air quotes, retired, being editor in chief, Roy Thomas, of course, took over. Now, Roy Thomas has done a lot of great things. He's made characters that I absolutely love. He is beloved, and he's a very nice man, right? And unfortunately, that doesn't bode well for being a boss. And
Yes.
he was loved, but he hated the job, and he got out of it pretty quickly. And fair enough, it's just not who he is. However, after Roy, who was the second editor in chief of Marvel after Stan, all right, they went through a bunch of people quick because no one could do the job until they found a little fella, I think is actually taller than me, called Jim Shooter. Now, Jim gets a lot of flack. He gets a lot
Mm.
of flack, and a lot of it is deserved, but a lot is not. And I'll give you some. I'm sure you've heard all the negatives. I'll give you some of the positives. Which I'll start with one that is a positive and a negative. The whole idea of these, title crossovers within your company, these big event books. That's Jim. He
Mm.
introduced this to the world. So if you hate them and you can't stand them, blame Jim. If you like them, well, blame Jim because he's the one who did that. Another thing he is really, really good is at management of a company. He's really good at it. Always get out on time. He runs a tight,
Yep.
tight, tight ship. And the problem is when you're dealing with artists, they're not good for that. And he bent a lot of beaks when he
Right.
was running it because he pissed people off. Yeah. And I know because I've been dealing with artists here on this channel for several years, and I love the art and I love the guys, but damn, dude. So
Yeah. Listen, I've said it before. I say it again. Uh, Artists, as great as they can be at their chosen profession, man, they can be flaky.
they
They
are
can
flaky
just,
as shit, dude.
whew,
And don't think I'm talking behind back either, because I've told them they're flaky right to them, right to their face, by the
right?
way. But they are, and of course he's a writer. Keep in mind he started as a DC writer when he was 14 years old.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's ridiculous. He's an incredibly talented guy, but he's a hard ass. And damn it, this is the timeline. You're going to get it done by this point, and I'm not going to give you any. I'm not going to give you an inch.
Right.
And this course created a lot of waves. But he did a fairly good job, although the comic book industry was in incredible turmoil at this time when things were going when he was in charge over there. And it's not necessarily his fault, it's just what was going on in comics. But something happened in 1986 that was quite interesting. Because a lot of people misunderstand this. It's shocking to me, but a lot of people think that Stan Lee or maybe Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko or whatever, they think that they own Marvel comic books.
Mhm.
No, they don't. They never did. Timely sold over, and it was controlled for by Perfect Film and Chemical, who changed their name to because they were having troubles even outside of the comic books. And the comic books are actually kind of keeping them afloat with the other things they were doing, and they changed their name to Cadence Industries for a while toward the end of it. But by '86, they were just bankrupt, and they had to sell. Jim Shooter went and got some support, and he put a bid in to buy Marvel comic books. Now he lost out to New Line Cinema or New Moon Cinema or some kind of group he lost out to, and they took a purchase of it. And this thing you got to understand: Marvel Comics has been owned by corporations from day one.
Mhm.
So a lot of people that did when Disney took over, they were like, "Oh my God, a corporation, it's going to ruin it." It was like, well, maybe, and now we can see clearly. But Marvel has always been owned by a corporation. It's never not been owned by a corporation.
Right.
But nevertheless, that deal fell through, and then like a year later, less than a year later, he's fired. Wonder why? Um, so, one of the guys he was kind of working with, like an outside contractor, he and that guy went together and they created their own company, got some funding, and they wanted to create their own comic book stuff. Initially, um, when they came out, this corporation they made was called Voyager Industries, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And but a part of Voyager was a comic book company which they called Valiant, right? And
Mm.
initially, what they did, shockingly, they went out and tried to get IP, and they had like Nintendo stuff. And I know probably hardly anybody knows this, but and of course, look at the old Valiant market; it's nowhere near as good as the current one. But yeah, they put out a whole bunch of Nintendo comic books, and shocking, no one wanted them. They did not sell. They did not sell at all. But they did, and there's a whole bunch of Valiant Nintendo books now that are probably worth something, I would imagine. If you're into the collecting, the investing market, which we'll get into more of that next week, because it's important to this story. Did you know this? Did you know that Valiant put out a whole bunch of Nintendo stuff?
I did. I did. I have some, actually.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, I
Hi,
have some
Bill.
Legend of Zelda. Hey guys, I heard
Up,
Flaky Artist, but I thought you were calling my name, so I said hi.
it's
Oh, no,
okay.
no,
I am
no,
one
no.
too. I've been writing the same book for like 2 years now. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, Bill is very knowledgeable about comic books. Um,
Yes.
yes, so glad to have you here. Of course, they didn't do well. They just didn't sell. But another thing that did sold a little bit better, but still wasn't viable, right? Was a little company called WWF. And this another thing I imagine a lot of people don't know that Valiant Comics was putting out a whole bunch of wrestling comic books, right? Once again, when you think of Valiant, you don't think of these IP stuff. They're not an IP company. It's not like what Dark Horse or even Image have become, right? Especially Dark Horse with everything's IP over there almost. But this made a little bit more money, but it just wasn't working. And so Jim, he was trying to figure a way that he could to get things going, and he had known people. I think some of his early work actually he'd worked over there with the was it Widmer or
Whitman.
Whitman. I think he had actually done some work with the Whitman group when he was
Hmm.
younger. And Of course, Whitman put out plenty of their own comic books, but their big imprint was Gold Key. Now, if
Yeah.
you're any know anything about comic books and you're kind of a comic historian or aficionado or whatever, Gold Key, you know Gold Key, right? And He went over, and of course, Gold Key is another company that did a lot of IP stuff, lots of IP.
Lots. Most
Yeah, yeah.
IP, I think, out of anybody ever, really.
Yeah, I think so. Although Dark Horse is doing their best to match them, to be fair, because I'm not a big fan of IP stuff. But I mean, I put up a Star Trek one here, just an example. But I mean, come on. I mean, they did Bonanza. They did you name a TV show, they had it, right? And They were very successful with it. But he didn't go after the IP. He went after original characters, and the choices he made are very important. And the reason why I'm doing this first before I get into later episodes in this series where I get into the characters deeper. I mean, last week I kind of gave you a primer into what Valiant is, and of course I talked about Exo Man of War because he's their figurehead now,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's why I talked about that. But I'm getting a little deeper here because what I'm about to talk about, this set the future for what Valiant became. And it's very important when you see what he picked up three characters. He licensed three characters from them, and the two of them um, are nowhere to be seen these days. Although you do see Solar sometime. The Doctor has been dropped now. But he brought in Magnus Robot Fighter 4000 AD and Doctor Solar Man of the Atom. And they licensed it and did a whole bunch of comics on these. And these worked. They hit. And they started making money. They were selling like, 50, 60, 80,000 issues a month for each one of these. That's a lot for them. It's nowhere
Those
near
were,
what the big dudes were doing, but I mean that's a lot.
oh
Uh,
man, those were huge when they came out. They did
they were.
the back, I mean, oh my gosh, people were just trying to find the back issues for these. It
Yep.
was so hard and just crazy popular when
And
it
they're
first came out.
pricey today because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were such small runs, especially when we get into the absolute insanity of the mid '90s. My
Yeah.
God, right? But I'm going to talk about that more next week because that, sadly, Valiant was caught up in that whole, the implosion of the industry. Unfortunately, they were caught up in that quite directly, and I'll talk about that more next week. But I really want to take a moment here to talk about it. Now, Solar, Dr. Solar, just Solar. You see him today. He's still in their comic books and stuff, but he never really caught big. It was popular enough for them to make money, but he never really caught. This Gold Key character from well, I think he's even what he started late 50s, early 60s, maybe 62.
Early, the early 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't
Um,
think it
uh,
might be.
I think the character itself is very interesting. He's like I don't know, almost like a Doctor Manhattan-esque character a little bit. Um,
He
uh,
is the prototype for that kind of character.
He
Yeah.
might have been. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think one of the big problems with the character, the beautiful art, that's one thing Valiant is well known for is great art, right? But I think the name is the problem. It's just not a good name. It doesn't roll off your tongue. It's not something you want to remember. Solar, right?
So,
Uh, yeah. But uh, I mentioned this simply because Ben wanted me to talk about it, so here I am. But I'm not a big fan of Solar. However, it certainly is what let Valiant survive and get to the point where they actually became legitimate. So Solar is important in that regard, right? Magnus Robot Fighter 4000 AD is so important to Valiant, even though he's nowhere to be seen and he hasn't been anywhere to be seen in a very long time. He's so important to Valiant that I would argue he is the inception of the universe.
I know Solar is.
No, Magnus is.
Yeah.
No.
Well, in the origin story, Solar actually destroyed his entire universe and recreated the universe, which was the Valiant
Well,
universe.
yes, I understand that, but that's not what I mean.
So,
I'm talking about their storytelling, how they put their characters together, the chronology, and even the cosmology of their world, of their universe, is all upon the inception of Magnus. Sure, Solar is the one that made it happen. I mean, in story, but it's all Magnus, and I'll explain why I'm saying that. Give me a moment, right?
yeah.
But now, like I said, the art in Magnus was really fun. The covers were killer. These beautiful painted gold key covers we got back in the day. Oh my God, they're just insanely good. I mean, look at that shit, dude. Right? And that was one of the things I loved about a gold key comics is the painted covers. Basically, the thing with Magnus is he's in the future, as you can see, and robots are kind of used in everyday life. Everyone has their own little robot assistant, and robots are doing, they're kind of in charge of everything. But the problem is the robots are starting to go crazy and cause damage, and starting to go rogue. And he is actually trained and raised by robots. Was sent out to find out what the problem was and solve it. He doesn't have any superpowers. He's just a dude. But like I said, there is no Magnus anymore. No one creates Magnus comic books. But the idea of the world he's in is extremely important to where Valiant went. And if you're a person who just kind of reads Valiant lightly or just read a few titles, you wouldn't recognize it. And I'm going to show you why it's so important here in a moment. But first, I want to talk about the third book that he licensed, the third IP, because clearly from the three that Jim took up, Magnus and Solar, are not really around much anymore. They're certainly not really popular, right? However, the third one has stood this test of time, brother. I mean, goodness gracious, Turok, son of Son. I mean, this thing.
Good old Turok.
And you know, it was popular back in the Gold Key era for sure. The Valiant stuff is fine, but this thing is going on, man. My goodness, it has several animated adaptations. It has it's a series of video games. I just saw a Turok movie not so many years ago that came out. I watched with the kids. So I don't know why of looking at those three ones that they licensed that this is the one that caught on, but it is.
Well, Turok was really popular when it ran
It was.
originally.
It was. Yeah.
Magnus had 46 issues. Dr. Solar only 31.
Hmm.
Turok had 134 issues, one of them being a giant size, and ran over a decade longer than the other two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, he was still in print in 1983,
Hmm.
where the other ones were done came out sporadically through the early 70s, from the early 60s to the early 70s. So
Sure.
Turok had a good 20-year run,
It
which is
did.
phenomenal for comic book.
Yeah. But they were able to transition it into the modern reader. And like I said, the video game certainly helped because that series is very popular, particularly the first one. And they, like I said, I've seen several animated adaptations of it over the years. And I'm not necessarily a big Turok fan, but it's just interesting to me because Turok is a very, very simple story for those of you who don't know it. He is an Indian. Mm. And he and his buddy are kind of tracking. I think they were tracking a deer, or they were doing something, and they end up get themselves where they have to kind of escape or survive, and they find this underground tunnel, and they come out into this valley that is supposedly like this collapsed cavern that's of course now open to the sky, but it's you can only get in there through this underground passage, and it's like a land of the lost with dinosaurs and stuff, and there starts his adventures, and he and his buddies' adventures in that area. So it's interesting. You got some. They can put in some supernatural esque things with dinosaurs and eat man-eating plants and that kind of stuff. But in general, it's just a couple of Indians going around fighting dinosaurs. I mean, that's it. But people liked it, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember playing the old Turok games on N64 and stuff. I like Turok. Turok was a good time.
Yeah. See, I don't care much for the Jungle Books. I've never been a big
Um,
fan of Tarzan or Korak. Thank God they got Turok and not Korak. Oh my God, because that was a Guild Key
That
book too.
was, yeah. No,
Sorry,
but
the full title Korak, son of Tarzan.
there's something just appealing to, like, just the natural man. All you have is your wits and fighting like prehistoric monsters. That's just freaking cool.
Yeah, no, I guess so. Yeah, and of course, a lot of you probably know it as Turok Dinosaur Hunter, but originally it's Son of Stone, which I think is a much cooler name. Why would you call him Dinosaur Hunter? That's nowhere near as cool. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
yeah, that's what the game was called, was Dinosaur Hunter,
sure,
and
sure.
that's pretty much what you did. You just went around and killed dinosaurs. It's great,
Yep,
good time.
yep.
Well,
But
that's what they changed the title to when Valiant launched it, and was Turok Dinosaur Hunter. They dropped the Son of Stone, but
which I don't
it was
agree
it
with.
was no, but it was pretty cool. I mean, that's also the nickname they gave those titles, was the Key Three, as that's what they wanted to really build up around. Although Turok came out in like '93, and number one was their best selling book of all time as far as number of copies sold, and it got really high up on Diamond's list. It had that chromium Bart Sears cover, so it was kind of gimmicky, but
Yeah, that's a
it
little
was
bit
their best
later
selling.
after when they really after Unity, right?
It is.
Um,
It's
uh,
post shooter. So yeah,
and
go ahead.
it is. And next week, I'm going not only going to am I going to get into the comic book collapse, I'm also going to get into Acclaim's purchase of them, and I'm also going to get into the Unity and how that changed Valiant forever. I mean, it's actually a really fun story just in and of itself.
For
And
sure.
once again, it's very Jim Shooter to create a
Yeah.
crossover thing. But it's I don't know if I think it's probably the most important crossover event in the history of any comic book company as it is to their success.
I agree
Even
with that. I
Crisis.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
because DC would have been still highly successful with or without Crisis. They'd still be printing, like crazy. But
Yeah, but they went under.
it,
They went from under 100,000 an issue to millions. Right?
it was massive.
It's
Yeah.
radical, dude. But anyway, I'm going to deal with that next week. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
What I want to talk about is these three. These three, the Gold Key three. Yeah. They set up for this company to have success because they started making money, and it was enough for them to relax and take a breath. And then they started to introduce their own characters. Now, I think, pretty sure, their first original characters were actually the Harbinger book.
It may have been Rye,
And well, I'm going to
actually.
talk about Rye here in a second, but it could be Rye, but it's
But
either Rye or
Harbinger,
Harbinger. I really think that their first original characters from Valiant we ever saw was Harbinger.
well, Harbinger had their own, were the first ones to have their own book. Rye debuted as a flip book to
No, you're right.
Magnus.
Yeah, that's right. That's what. Yeah, there it is. You're right. You're right. That's right. But
Before
anyway, Harbinger and Rye were their first original stuff, and then of course we start getting a whole bunch of other things, right? But I'm not going to talk about Harbinger because they deserve more focus. But in today's spotlight, I'm going to talk about Rye, and I'm going to yell at you, is what I'm going to do, because if you haven't read Rye, what are you doing?
what the fuck are you doing?
What the fuck are you doing, dude? Because this is an amazing book. The art is freaking fantastic, dude. I mean, it's stellar. This is early 90s, man. And the art in this book, it blows Image away, blows it away. And keep in mind, this was when Image came out, Valiant came out. They were in direct competition with each other. I know Image has done better over the long run than Valiant. Although I'd argue that when you get into here in the past decade or so. But Rye is sick, dude. You should be reading this, and no one talks about Rye enough, Bill. Nobody.
No, it's become Valiant has become so obscure, man. But also, it's had some real recently, some real. I can't think of an explicit enough for some of the writers that work on those books. It's just they're just too much to deal with. But not Rye did not have one of those idiots writing it
No,
the
no, no,
last few
no, no,
years.
no, 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 no. And I know Valiant has had a little hiccups, although I do think they're cleaning it up. But then again, Marvel and DC did the same thing, right? Everybody did, the whole woke crap. But I'm not. I'll talk about that later. That'll be the last entry into this spotlight series. However, Rye is extremely important, and Bill mentioning is the first thing with the flip for a character with flip book, and I'm going back to where I said Magnus is really important for the universe of Valiant, because this is Rye in 4000 AD, which they came out with those 4000 AD stuff later. But Rye is not only important to the overall structure and the idea of the cosmology of the Valiant universe. It also is important for one of their most popular characters, because what this is a modern version of Bloodshot.
Or the future
The
version.
future
Yeah.
version, yeah, sorry, modern, the future
Yeah.
version of Bloodshot. This is where Bloodshot comes to. I'm not going to give you spoilers on it because you should go read Rye without question. And Rye is set specifically in New Japan, specifically. But there are things happening all over the world in 4000 AD. And keep in mind, they have a lot of 4000 AD stuff in Valiant. And keep in mind that little one the three books that they licensed. What was the name of that one again? Magnus Robot Fighter 4000 AD. And in Rye, it's the robots are a little different. They're a more modern type of robot. They're more like an android, and everyone is given one at birth. And it's been like 1,000 years since there's been a murder, right? And things start going off, and of course, guess where it goes. But I'm not going to get into the story because I really think you should read it. But just to give you some clips of the art that is in this book, right? I mean, Jesus, dude, look at it.
Now, this is some of the more current
It is, but
Rye.
it doesn't matter. It always looks like this. Rye is always badass. It's always been
Yeah.
badass.
I
It's
like it,
insane. Yeah.
but
Uh,
it
yeah,
is the stories are just phenomenal.
they
Uh,
are. It's really, really good.
Definitely should pick up the first trade paperback of Rye
And they
for
have,
classic.
I think they have three. All Rye is in three volume trade back volumes. You can pick them up. They're just really, really good. Great storytelling. And like I said, if you're most of you might not be big into the history of Valiant or everything about it, but you certainly know who this guy is. Everyone knows who Bloodshot is. He's one of their more popular characters, Exo Man of War. I'd say he's even more mainstream known than Exo, to be honest with you.
But with
Um,
the movie,
with the movie with Vin Diesel, which is fine. It's a fun movie. Go watch it. But Bloodshot is a great character, and he is the inception of Rye. It's really, really cool the way they tie in all their stories. It's well thought out. It's weird, Bill. It's almost like they have a plan.
it is so like that. It kind of blows you away. They must have did like storyboards and index cards on a wall or something to figure it out.
Yeah, and they must have. And even though it's changed hand, what? So it was Jim's Voyager
Or
company, and then it went to Acclaim, and then it went to that other thing, and then the entertainment where the Indian guy bought it. So what? Four times it's changed hands, but yet the
yeah, but I remember,
continuity has stayed, except for '97 to 2001, which we'll never talk about ever, because
yeah,
that
it
was
claims
stupid. Well, that was stupid time in comic books. My God, it was such a dumb time in comic books, dude.
All over the
there
industry
was,
it was dumb.
there
Yeah,
was a period where they weren't even where they were bankrupt and done, and they weren't printing anything. And
true.
that was a small account too,
hmm
and that's when they lost the key three, and they
But
had to start. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead. You're probably going to do that in another
I am, but that's okay. But the point is, they've kept the continuity, other than those like 3, 4 year period where they went dumb and everybody was just doing weird stuff. I mean, shit, they turned Exo Man of War into an Army Black Ops vet and the new American technology. It was like, fuck off, dude. I mean, absolutely. Nevertheless, of course, another thing they've done, I really enjoy the 4000 AD stuff they did with Ryan. Then, of course, they came out with the 4001 AD stuff where they've introduced other characters and done more broader things. It's not all Rye, it's other stuff. But I really like what they did with that, and the art is really killer, which I'm definitely a proponent of art. But Jim Shooter, he had a failed bid to buy Marvel, and to be honest with you, it's unfortunate. I think the company who bought Marvel, who won the bid, it would have been better if Jim had got it. I really believe that.
Oh, I think it would have just been like golden age, man. It would have been
Yeah,
amazing because
because
he
he,
was so hardcore on creator rights. He was getting people their artwork. He was getting Ditko his artwork back. He was lobbying against the lawyers to get Kirby his stuff back,
hmm
and he came up with a better pay system for royalties. He did a lot of, and that's why DC lost so many people like Frank Miller is because of the royalty thing. That I mean, Marvel lost because of the royalty thing that they couldn't compete with DC, and
yeah,
you know, there was a lot of talent that vacated Marvel right after their great peak, like in the mid '80s,
oh
because
sure.
of the way not just Jim Shooter, but it was the way the talent was being treated.
No, a lot of people left. They lost a lot of people. It would have been better if he had actually won that bid and became the owner of Marvel. However, it's not what happened, and he went on. And of course, the interesting thing is a lot of people complain about how much of a hard ass and Jim Shooter is, but he also did all those things Bill just said and more. So, but
Yeah,
he working for him. If you're not a pedantic and efficient worker, I'm sure you hate him, right? And we know
Yeah.
how flaky artists are. So,
flaky, freaking artist,
to the
like
nth
like
degree,
Sun Barrel.
Bill, to the nth degree. Yes. But anyway, but I'm happy on the other side of it that he did go over and create Valiant, and Valiant is survived and still around today, and it's a legitimate comic book company with lots of titles, some really good writing. The past few years, it's been kind of not as good, but everything is like that because politics. and being written in an inappropriate way. But next week we're going to talk about the mid to late '90s, and then probably the last installment I'll do in 2 weeks is on the modern Valiant Entertainment and just the wonderful people who are involved over in Valiant right now.
We
No,
should do a suggestion though. If for so we should do like a kind of a montage of like their properties. I'll put something together for you for next week. But
sure.
if you don't mention the Volume 2 Ninjak costume, you're missing a ripe opportunity to poke fun at. That is
Oh
one of
well,
the
there is
ugliest.
fun to poke, dude. There is fun to poke, but um, I'm not going to get into all the characters we know today, right? I'm going
Okay.
to leave it on Rye, and of course, I dealt with Man of War because these are the ones, the first, and of course, Harbinger as well. But that's going to deserve a show all on its own, to be honest with you, because that there's so much of the Valiant universe that's built around Harbingers. So I will have to, and Unity and stuff like that as well. But nevertheless, as for now, go read some Rye. I mean, dude, it's
Do
really,
it right.
really well written. It's a good,
Or
good comic
Shadowman.
book. What do you say?
Did you read Shadowman at all?
Shadow Man's a good comic too, but I'm going to leave him for next week. I'm going to leave all those mainstream characters because as we sit today, a Man of War I mentioned last week, but that was just a primer. That was just kind of looking at what is Valiant, and Man of War is their main dude. So I covered Man of War, but Rye is certainly nowhere near their most popular character now. He's not. He's just not. And if you ask someone who vaguely knows Valiant, they're not going to mention him. They're going to mention Shadow Man. They're going to mention Ninjak. They're going to mention Bloodshot. They're going to mention Man of War. Toyo Hamada and
Or
and stuff like that.
Dark.
Imperious, things like that. But
But one more thing I'd recommend people find is Mike Barron's work on Archer and Armstrong.
oh
That
yeah,
is some of the funnest
yeah,
books.
it is
Oh,
good stuff.
they're a blast.
It is good stuff.
It's really good.
And I just kind of to end this up today. And before I'm going to go take a look at the page here a little bit, real quick too. But to be honest, when I was young, I read some Magnus, I think, in the early '90s, but I was one of those kids that was all in with the image revolution, right? And I read a lot of
Mhm.
image stuff, and I didn't really pay that much attention to Valiant, to be fair. I found them when in their reboot here with Marvel, with Valiant Entertainment and I
Okay.
and then I went back and read stuff because like, well, hold on a second, this is really good. And then I was like, wow, dude, I missed out. I mean, I honestly think the Valiant stuff is better than the Image stuff back in the
Yeah,
early
it was
'90s. Yeah,
so. Oh man, it was so well written. The art style was very different. It was really well done for a storytelling aspect. It wasn't just splash pages and in your
no,
face and gotcha stuff. It was storytelling. They had like really, really masterful artists. I think it's where David Lappin got his start in Harbinger,
hmm
and he stuck with Shooter for a while. He did Warriors of Plasm when Shooter went and started Defiant Comics.
right,
Um, but they did for coloring. They didn't do like the really flashy computer animated or not computer animated, computer generated. But they went with a beautiful painterly style for coloring, and it was like all wash or a watercolor style. It was just really captivating. It was unique at that time. There,
it
no one
was,
else was doing it.
it was.
And that
It,
really grabbed my eye. So I was a
ex-
huge Valiant person up until like about 93, 94, and then it started to get really different. Shooter was gone. It was a whole different
That's
business.
true.
So
That's
it
the
kind of
Acclaim era. And it's true. But then around that time is when you get like Eternal Warrior, and it's basically looked like a Rob Liefeld knockoff. Sorry, Ben. But you start getting that kind of transition of them trying to, keep up with the image really. But
yeah, they tweaked the Eternal Warrior to be more of a yeah of a violent, aggressive character, where before it was a very well thought out storyline with a
right,
cool, blip of history, because the guy was 5,000 years old. So the book always started with like 4 pages or two to 4 pages of his sometime in his history, whether it was in 900 BC or 1600 AD, you know, or whatever. So it was always, and that always tied into whatever was going on in the rest of the book. So you always had this really cool primer that took place thousands of years in the past. So it was really, it used to be a great book.
Yeah, yeah, it was a good book. But
But they could,
I want to kind of look at what they've been doing here in 2014 on, and just kind of give you a look at 2014, 2015, what they were their lineups for the year ahead that they were show. Here's 2014. Of course, at that time, Rye is still around. He's still around, but he's just certainly not their most popular character. Armor Hunters, Bloodshot, Harbinger, of course, Delinquents, which I like. Doctor Mirage. You ever get into Doctor Mirage?
well, the first series, I read a few of the first, I think like the first year maybe, and then it became a little too soap opera-y.
Yeah.
You know, husband and wife can never really fall in love and touch each other because he's a ghost, and it just is like I'm not spending money on that.
I
So,
much prefer the Ghost one where the girl is. It's another comic book I can't remember. Where the girl is stuck in the phase form.
and the Dark Horse one where
I
she's
think it's Dark Horse. Yeah. Um,
series 238
I,
and two double D's. That one.
Oh, that yes, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
But I much preferred that take on that kind of character. But anyway, these are this is 2014. Here's 2015, and just look at how I mean, talk about progressive, right? And the nonsense that the because progressive's not in itself a bad word, right? But just look at what the kind of art they're putting out. 2014 is that killer art style is out coming out. Look at all the interesting look and ideas. The Valiant was a great comic book. Time Walker, interesting character to be sure. Their whole
Oh yeah.
divinity thing they were doing, Imperium, ah, Ninjak. I've never been a huge Ninjak fan, but people who like that, he's a great character. And of course, the Bloodshot Reborn run. And this is what 7 years ago. Right, and here's a shot today of just their kind of main page, and you see all these great characters that are still going on and still around and still doing stuff. And I just really like Valiant, and I always have. And I've been surprised, Bill, here since I've been doing this show for a few years, how few people read Valiant. I,
Well, I got to say, the last 5 years of Valiant is it's like Mag Visaggio, it's Chuck Wendig, it's Max Bemis, it's all these, you know, just crappy writers, man. And I'm not, yeah, I don't blame them. Who wants to read that shit?
yeah, not all of it though, not all of it. And I personally think it's getting better, but I do know that Faith thing was a freaking debacle, without question. Especially she's such a cool character too, and they ruined her. But they
Yeah,
they ruined her in the same way they ruined Kamala Khan, though, because she started
yeah,
out as a fangirl, very similar to Faith, right? And but
yeah.
because she was cool, and then they ruined her, right? But
Yeah, I
anyway,
tried reading Harbinger Wars recently, and the way they drew Faith was just absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Oh my god.
yeah,
Those are some of the worst panels I've ever seen someone paid to do.
true.
I
But I personally think they're coming around. But anyway, let's go over here and let's bring us back up to the main page here, which means I have to go back over and reselect everything. So let me do that. Um, okay, let me redo here. There we go. All right. Okay, there we go. Perfect.
My all-time favorite character, like Pete Stanchek. That was an awesome character. Man.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, when you get into it, I'll pop in too. But yeah, that was just a great storyline.
Now this
Hard
right
to
here is the Valiant homepage. Okay, so it's present. Now, of course, the art style we're looking here, what Bill was just talking about, is different. But the one thing about Valiant is they're not afraid to try all kinds of different art style. They've always been that way. And me personally, some of the best art, I mean, interior art. I'm not talking about just covers, but some of the best interior art I've seen over the decades has been in Valiant. It was just some killer interiors, dude. Just ridiculous. And I think it has a lot to do with, I don't know the conversations Shooter had in the beginning, but When they brought those gold key characters over with those beautiful painted covers and those just beautifully, just amazing art from that old school artists were just amazing. People do not talk about how good the artists from the 20s on to say the 60s were.
Yeah, oh my God, Russ Manning was the creator of Magnus, and his line work inside the comic was just so freaking amazing.
It's really good.
Some of the
Yeah.
incredible illustrators.
Um, and Roger, I'm going to talk about Archer and Armstrong. You better believe it. It's a great comic book. I'm going to talk about Woody and Quantum, and I'm going to talk about all of it because I really want to promote it because there's some good stuff. Now, a lot of it is set in trade settings because, like you said, the past so many years isn't as good. But there is some epic storytelling in Valiant, and go picking up a trade and reading those things is definitely worth it. But if we look at this page here, we see some of the things they got
Mhm.
have going on. They got Unleashed, of course. They're also they're doing like a series of novels, I think. But You got the Dark Feast is coming with Shadows #1, of course, with Shadow Man, which we will talk about. There's some Bloodshot stuff, but the Blood and Bloodshot Unleashed with new covers and action figures variants. They have action covers, action figures. Cool.
Roll the dice.
That's awesome. Yeah. Evil arrives in July. Of course, going back to talk about Shadows #1, which I definitely got to check out. You can get yourself sneakers. Yeah,
Sneakers.
you need sneakers. We got new Ninjak, Super Killers. It could be a fun limited series there. I do like Armorclads. Have you read that?
So that was the old Armorines, I guess, the reboot.
Right, right,
Um,
right. It's a new take
I
on it,
know
but
I
it's not
haven't. I
bad.
haven't. I have not read much of the recent Valiant. I was just rereading all the old classic stuff I have, and now I'm probably gonna poke around and see which ones of these I want to download
Yeah, it's not.
from.
I mean, there's still dumbass shit going over there, but where is not dumbass shit going on? I mean, but there are some
That's
cool
kind of like a
things.
rereading.
I really need to kind of just embrace Ninjak, I think, and read more of it. But Archer and Armstrong has always been great. It's a really good comic book. Armorclads is actually not bad. Shadow Man's always been fun. I think it's the best take on a voodoo character I've seen, to be honest with you. I
Better
like
than
it.
rereading. That's for sure.
No, it definitely is better than what DC or Marvel have done. But anyway, here's the homepage. You can go check out and see what they're doing. There's a lot of stuff on this page. There's a lot of content in all these buttons, which I'm not going to press. Valiant is fun, dude. It is fun. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with the mid 90s to the early aughts next week and get into all the things. And kind of, it'll probably be a longer introduction than this because I'm going to spend some time talking about all their characters that made Valiant Valiant, right? But After my little dissertation here, Bill, do you understand where I'm coming from, where how important Magnus is?
Oh, I do. Especially when the big reveal in Unity.
Yes.
Um, that really clinched it. And yeah, that was he's as important as Bloodshot is to the Valiant universe too. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, sure.
so there's just it is he's a great, man, yeah, when they went bankrupt, they lost all three of those, and I'm just trying to figure out how it all fits now without Solar and without Magnus in it.
Well, I'm going to tell you and I think it might have played into that. Although Rye came out and Rye was telling the story it was telling, so I have a feeling that Shooter, he was licensing it, and of the three, I think it was Magnus he liked the best. I just feel
Yeah,
this, and he was like,
yeah,
"Well, I'm licensing this. I don't own this, but I want to have my own Magnus." And I really think that Rye, and then of course later with the more popular character Bloodshot, is his Magnus. I really think
yeah.
it is. Um,
No,
uh,
I was going to see where he was because he had plot credits in almost every book in the beginning in the first couple of years.
yep.
If he wasn't the writer, he definitely was in doing the plot.
Oh yeah.
And I was going to pull up my copies of Magnus and see what he had for credits, but I'm
Well,
probably not going to be as
and
fast
we know
as
one
him.
of the big complaints about Jim Shooter is he's a micromanager, right? So I mean, it makes sense. I would say that Bloodshot and more particularly Rye is Magnus. And he created or he and they created a story that spans the entire history of the Valiant universe, and that character is kind of a linchpin, right? But nevertheless, we'll get into more of that next week, and we'll talk about that stuff. But yeah, it's fun. I'm glad that Ben prodded me to do a Valiant spotlight, and yeah, we're gonna have fun with it. All righty.
Well,
Uh,
one thing that's kind of neat is he took key issues from, or Jim Shooter did, took really good issues from Gold Key.
mhm.
And so where Magnus starts off in Valiant is a continuation of those Gold Key stories. So you could read the old books and then pick up the Valiant, and still that's still your Magnus.
Yeah,
It's still the Legia, it's still Senator Crane and 1A and all the other characters in there. And it was Jim Shooter penning those to make
mhm.
sure that they all blended together. And that's a really fun thing for him to have that homage to the legacy of the character, continue that story, have the permission to do that. He talked to the creator, told him what he wanted to do, and the guy was like, "Yeah, you can use my storyline. Go for it." Not only did he have the rights from Western Publishing, which was Whitman, but he also talked to the original writer and got
Right,
got got the thumbs up with his storyline, which
right.
is that's paying tribute to the founders, which is a great thing. That's probably why one reason that made it so successful was his heart was so much into that
Sure.
title, Magnus.
And when he went and got some old timers to come and help him out too. But I think that's true. And it also comes into why did he choose those three? Right?
Yeah,
Jim Shooter's not an idiot. He's a very smart guy. He chose them intentionally. And a good example, with my point about Rye, is like in, of course, Magnus. He's fighting robots. It's literally called Magnus Robot Fighter 4000 AD, right? Literally. But
hmm
in the Rye universe, or this could be in the Valiant universe, they don't call them robots. They're more android. What's the name they have? What do they call them? It's like positronics or
I have to pull it. I'm looking at an old Magnus, so I should be able to find it here.
well, not in the Magnus, in the Rye book. I think they
Yeah,
call
no,
them
yeah, he was the flip
positronics
book.
or something like that. But what they are is androids, and everybody has one. It's the same thing as Magnus. It's the same, but he changed things enough that he could make it his own. I think is what happened. Or maybe initially it was just trying to modernize the Magnus look. I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely just he had to upgrade it, because the whole 1960s imagery
Hmm.
was definitely too outdated. So they had to have some
Yeah,
to
and
change
of
it around.
course the '90s was the Iron Age, right? It was all rough and tumble and
Yeah.
and
Well,
pouches.
with
Yeah,
well, they had grandmother was the AI who ran Japan.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was just seeing if they had
Don't
any.
give away too many spoilers now.
No, no, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to move on from
Yeah.
this, but
Okay. Yeah.
we
They
will
were,
definitely continue this.
some of them were referred to as Robs, but anyways.
Yeah, no,
Anyway.
in the Magnus for sure, but I think they had enough. But anyway, we'll go continue talking about it more next week. Thunder, are you awake?
I am awake.
Okay, good.
Sorry,
I do
buddy.
apologize, but it is fun, and I
Oh,
would
okay.
suggest you read some of the old Valiant, dude. It's really good, or even some of the
All right.
relaunch stuff in the like 2008, 2010, around that area.
Mhm.
But anyway, let's go on. Here we go.
Okay. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm gonna bounce.
Later, Bill.
Later, bro.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Absolutely.
They're just burying this thing at this point.
Hmm.
Yasmin Finney confirms upcoming Doctor Who companion Rose is transgender.
Now,
Lovely.
lovely, and she's not lovely. But and I know immediately. This is siding with Chet on this one. Well, Ben's watching, dealing with Danny right now. That's okay, dude. It's Valiant. We'll cover that more next week, but it is a lot of fun. But for those of you who are saying Chester, this is a comic show. Well, Doctor Who. Rah, rah, okay, okay. And don't tell me. Okay. But anyway, Now we had a thing we were talking about some weeks ago where there was some transgender in some comic book TV CW or something, and I
Hmm.
had made comment that, well, I mean, from the hips up, not a bad looking, lady,
Hmm.
quote unquote. This is not. That's a pretty horrible looking thing I'm looking at.
Yeah.
It's pretty horrible, and they're so excited about their little It's my first one in my first Pride parade. I'm so excited. Okay, but oh my God, tragic, tragic. But the point being with this, of course, is the fact that we know that Doctor Who was absolutely crumbled, right?
Yep.
And they said, "Oh, we're going to bring him back the guy, the showrunner who was in charge when David Tennant was on, and things are going to be so much better." And then they announced the new Doctor Who is not only a black dude, he's a super gay black dude, right? And now
Hmm.
his Rose not only is a black dude, it's a dudette. I mean, what's the terminology?
I don't know. I don't know
I'm
anymore.
going with dudette.
I
That's
don't know anymore.
that's my thing. So Rose has been race and gender swapped.
That's right.
And we talked about how that the Doctor is a non-sexual character, right? They did have
Hmm.
that one storyline with thing, just like Sherlock Holmes had, right? But he's not a sexual character, and the reason why the companions are kind of there is to have a little bit of somewhat of eye candy because Doctor doesn't care. I guarantee you, he's going to have a love affair with this transgender character. I guarantee it. How much money you want to
Of
put on
course.
it?
Oh, I'm not taking that. That's a bad bet. That's definitely going to happen.
Right? Doctor Who is already dead. People are not happy with it. It's not just the foreigners; the Brits themselves are not happy with what they did
Hmm.
with it, and it has absolutely failed. This relaunch of the new Doctor is only going to put the final nail in the coffin. And this isn't even about the gay thing. It's just about the stupid. It's just the
Yeah.
stupid. And the BBC is got to be the one of the most inane companies on planet Earth, dude. I mean, my God, if you look at the nonsense they keep pushing out, and especially in a country that is not that. The vast majority of Britain is actually quite conservative, but they clearly have no control over anything over there. Those
Mm.
politicians are just in charge, and it doesn't matter what the people think at all. America is a little bit more 50-50. Not, well, it's not. It's more like 30-30 and 60 in the middle, or whatever, 40 in the middle. I mean, to be
Right.
fair, I just don't understand why the people of Britain allow this to continue, dude. With this nonsense of the BBC, the whole grooming thing they had going on with their police department not doing anything about it, the heads need to frickin' roll in Britain, dude,
Yes.
and nothing is happening. And I know this is just entertainment; it's not as big as all those other things I just mentioned, but it's related, dude. It's the same thinking, right?
Apathy.
Mm,
It's a level of corruption spreading it out from things that don't matter into things that do matter.
yeah.
And I would say that's why those things that, quote, don't matter do matter.
Yeah, and I
Because
agree,
that's
man.
where it
Dirty
starts
centrists
from.
should unite. I agree. But it's just what a shame, dude. It's just what a shame with Doctor Strange, man. I mean, sorry, not Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange too, but Doctor Who, because I love me some Tom Baker. I do. I grew up with
Hmm.
it, and
Hmm.
it's awesome. And for me, he is the quintessential Doctor. This quirky, weird. mm, Would you like a jelly baby? That's
Like
Doctor
a
Who.
jelly baby?
But and his amazing scarf, which they overdid here, which is beautiful. But I'm not going to argue that David Tennant wasn't the best Doctor Who because he was. He was. He was
Well, I'm going to
perfect.
be that guy, and I'm going to actually you right now and say he was not the Doctor Who, he was the Doctor. Doctor Who
Well,
is the
he
name of the
was the
show.
he, well, he. Yeah, thank you very much. But no, but you know what I mean. David Tennant
Yes.
was certainly the best Doctor, without question. But I still, Tom Baker's my dude. But I loved what they did. The reboot, it was wonderful. We had so much fun. It was camp and cheesy as it should be. And then they went and got way crazy political with something is just sure actual tongue in cheek a tongue in cheek storytelling, and they made that
Mm.
political. It's like what? What are
Yeah,
you
it was
doing,
dumb.
dude? It doesn't make any sense at all. And they just over the top, and it's so much. Oh yeah, well take that. That's what they did.
You showed
You know,
us.
they did, and it's not even like some of the. I know a lot of people complain about the MCU movies, but it is way more subtle, right? It's not.
Mm.
It's not the whole thing in your face. Other than Loki, Loki was really bad, but you know what I mean. They were just mean spirited, dude. What
Yeah,
they were doing, those people in charge of Doctor Who over the past few years. I don't know, but anyway, it don't even bother. Don't just Doctor Who's died with David Tennant. Just leave it there.
it's dead. Well,
It
I would.
is.
Matt did okay. The
Yeah,
first half of his run was really good, but then they introduced that ridiculous Clara character, and the show literally became all about her. And it was all he was only in service to her. Everything was about her constantly. I mean, the trope that people were calling it Clara Who because that's what it was. It
yeah.
was her show, and he was just there, and it was ridiculous, and it made me and the wife we both just completely lost interest.
Mm.
And then I mean, we kept watching, and then you get into Capaldi, and Capaldi got screwed because
Well,
Moffat
no,
had an agenda
that's
to
just a
turn the
setup.
Doctor
That
into
was
a
a
woman,
setup for this. Yeah, it was
and he
purely
was
setup. Yeah.
just set up from the get to be a total simp cuck, totally, like legitimately, and it was just horrible. The what we thought we were going to get, because the first time you see Capaldi, you only see his eyebrows, and it's in the 50th anniversary, and they just do one little blurb where there's a 13th Doctor has showed up, and it's him, and that's all you see. But in that bit, you see his eyebrows and his eyes, you see his brow, basically.
Hmm.
Everybody was excited. We were like, "Oh, ooh," because for one, the guy's an unbelievable actor. So he conveyed so much rage in one look that everybody was very excited. I was very excited. Every one of the fandoms, because I was really heavy into Doctor Who fandom at the time,
Sure.
all over the place. People were fired up. Like, this is going to be a totally different Doctor. He's going to be much more like the second Doctor, much more aggressive, and he's going to go at people, and he's going to kick ass. He's going to be a kick ass Doctor, right? Well, he was completely not that at all. In
No.
fact, half the time he was so mush mouthed we couldn't even understand what the hell he was saying. And then the other half the time he was too busy just playing cuck to Clara still.
Yeah, it was
And then it
nonsense.
went
Yeah.
from that into just pure on I don't even know what to call it because
Lady
he
Who?
wasn't the Doctor. Yeah, he was not the Doctor at all. And then it jumped into he turned into a woman, which every Doctor before that was fearful of that happening. Right? They would make comments about something to that effect, right? So like Matt Smith thought he was a girl because his hair was longer, right? He's like, "Oh, I'm a woman. I'm a woman," or something. He says something like that when he first regenerated. And I just all Capaldi's Doctor was to do. The entire purpose of it, from Missy, the female master, to the way he behaved and the fact that he was so deferential to the females the whole time and didn't act like the Doctor really at all. Just all of it was designed to get you comfortable with the idea of a female Doctor. That's all it was
Yeah,
for.
no, it was particularly that, and when they finally got the female doctor, keep in mind the British people when it was initially announced coming out with Lady Who, the majority of them were like, okay, let's see.
Yeah,
There wasn't a
let's see what
big
she does.
outrage coming out that there was the new doctor was a lady. It wasn't, but as time went by and it was so poorly done, and I don't know, same thing with Capaldi with that actress. I've seen her do good stuff, dude.
Yeah,
I've
she's not
seen
bad.
it. But she was
Yeah,
horrible. And of course, it was radical levels of politic. It's not just the little subtle things, which I know it irritates some people, but you can say all right, whatever, and look past it. You couldn't with the Lady Who. You could not,
no,
dude.
no, it
Because
was
and
everywhere.
they went and they got mean about it, and they started, the whole thing of making who we started out as a little black girl. That was just to say fuck you, fans. That's why they did
Yeah,
that. It was
yeah.
100% just mean spirited nonsense. There's no political. There's no argument saying, "Well, you gotta be. It's modern time." To fuck off.
No, it
What has
was
happened to Doctor Who is one of the greatest tragedies of nerddom.
yeah. I agree
Yeah.
because it was a nerd character. Like nobody until our boy Tennant and to some degree Eccleston, but really Tennant.
I
It
loved
wasn't. It
Eccleston.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't a super popular show outside of nerdery. Like only really nerds ever watched it or cared about it. It got crossed over into much more mainstream after with Tennant's run specifically because he was just so dreamy and the women loved him and he was just great at the role. But he could pull off the threat that the Doctor can become very well.
Oh
That's
yeah.
one of the best actors alive, so he could just turn that on when he needed to, and that's why he was so great. Matt did an okay job with that too. Capaldi did an okay job with it too. He just kept getting shit material. Um, and I honestly think the chick, the lady, I can't remember her name's Jodie something. I can't remember her last name. I think Whitaker.
Yeah, Whitaker.
The little bits I saw of her weren't terrible. It's just she's not the Doctor. I'm sorry, the Doctor's a guy. You can pretend, you can protest and change the lore and retcon everything you want. The Doctor has always been, or had always been up until that point, a man for 60, 50 years, whatever it was. And when they changed that, they took something away from that character, in my opinion. And for me personally, me and my wife both agreed if they ever did that, we would never watch the show again. Because it's just, he is a he. The Doctor is a
Yeah,
man.
it is.
If you change that, you've changed something so fundamental to this character that there's it's not the same character anymore. It's just not. Though even with the regenerations, there was always something about the Doctor that was the same, right? He still had basically the same character, even if he had different tactics or if he had different, levels of aggression or whatever. Still, fundamentally at his core, he was the same compassionate, heroic guy, right? Who stood up to the darkness. And that's not that Jodie isn't necessarily that. That's fine. It's just when you take away the masculine part of it, you take away something about him that makes him special. That masculine energy as a protector is something that in Hollywood right now and in television all over the world it seems is just gone. We just don't see it like you had with the
No,
Doctor for so long.
no,
And that's a problem. And that's why it's such a big deal to me that they changed it because he had that energy about him. Yeah, he was crazy and kooky and could be a prick. Okay, that sounds pretty masculine to me. A lot of masculine protectors are like that. You were talking about Jim Shooter. He was kind of a dick,
he
but he got the
was.
job done
He
and
was
he
a
looked out for his
taskmaster.
artists
Yeah, he did.
because
He
that's
did. Yeah.
that's what they do. That's how a lot of men are. They're bristly, right? They're thorny, but that goes both ways because they can work for you or against you, and that's kind of how the Doctor is. He chooses to be a good man. He chooses to fight for what's right instead of what's wrong. He easily could do either. He's powerful enough, mentally and physically and whatever, to do it, but he chooses to be good.
Hmm.
And when I don't know, it's just for me, you take away that aspect of his sex, his gender, quote unquote, his sex, the fact that he's a male, and act like that this is just something super fluid for Time Lords. They just go back and forth all the time. It's not a big deal. Well, wait a minute. You're talking out of two sides of your mouth. Because you're telling me that these sorts of things are supposedly a big deal and we should be more careful with them and respect people's gender identities and all these things. Okay, well, then you can't say it doesn't matter out of the other side of your mouth. It's
Yeah,
one or
no,
the
they
other.
do that
Either it
all the time,
matters
though.
or it doesn't
Yeah, they
matter.
they do that
Pick one.
constantly. Yeah, but I mean, we talk about the agenda over here
Yeah.
from time to time, and everyone has their little bit different opinions on it. However, Doctor Who is the best example of it, in my opinion.
Mm, I
Now you
agree.
can get into some of the stuff with the drag queen story time and all that kind of stuff with CRT, and yeah, of course that's real world. But we're talking more about our nerd entertainment. This is the worst example what they've done to Doctor Who by far. But whatever, it's done. It's just done. We have some great stuff in the past. We go back and read it, just like I was talking about Valiant. Go pick up the trades, man, because there's some
Yeah.
really good stuff to read from the
And I
past.
actually agree with Ben over here. He said David Tennant is the best, but Capaldi holds a special place in his heart. He had moments of true greatness, and he did. But that was him being. He wanted this role his entire life. Apparently, when he was like 15 years old, he wrote a letter into the show like critiquing it and stuff and telling them how much they love it and it made it into like one of their newsletters or something. Like he was a lifelong fan of Doctor Who. and
Sure.
he got to live his dream, and all he did was get betrayed by Moffat.
Oh yeah, I
Just
know.
stabbed right in his back. And it,
Yeah.
it was so heartbreaking because you could see it in his face when he'd do interviews that this man was heartbroken for the way this turned out. He was heartbroken. That's horrible,
Yeah.
in my
No,
opinion.
I agree, and it's unfortunate, and it's like, couldn't we at least have gotten a cute transgender?
I could be real mean. I won't. I'll be nice. But no, apparently not.
I can't get, you know. Oh well. Moving on though, but yeah, I just, I know it's not super comic related, but I just like, yeah, it's done, dude. It's done.
Yeah,
Moving
it
on.
is.
Now this is very interesting.
Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle get hitched in Batman Catwoman number 12, but that's only the beginning. So they finally did it, huh? They finally pulled the trigger, let it happen, because they've
Yes
been teasing it
and
for a long
no.
time.
Yes and no. Yes and
Oh
no.
boy.
Now, keep in mind that this Catman book, 12 issues here, it's finished, it's done. Initially, the idea was to make it canon. It was actually going to be canon. But because they saw what the plan was, they said, nope, this is not canon. This is going to be its own Elseworld thing that they put under the black label, right? And thank God they did that, because this book, which of course, I don't, do I have to tell you who's in charge of this? Would anyone like to guess? Oh
Of
yeah, Tom
course.
King.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
and
Why?
Taylor too, by the way. But
Oh,
anyway, in this nonsense of a book, what they have done is, of course, they tease them getting married, and of course they finally did get them married in a goofy way. But the whole idea of this thing is kind of the relationship, not really with Catwoman and Batman. It's more about her relationship with the Joker, right? Which doesn't make sense, the way they've been doing it in the book. It's dumb. It's completely not how Catwoman and Joker would interact with each other. But spoilers, and I don't give a shit. Spoilers. They do get married, and then they immediately kill Batman. He's dead in this Elseworld
Jesus
story.
Christ, Tom.
And of course, Joker's the one who kills him. And then
Of course.
Selena feels bad because she had many opportunities to deal with Joker. She didn't, but she goes kills the Joker. So in the end, she
Oh boy.
stands alone. But it's just stupid, stupid shit. And to be honest with you, I understand a lot of people want Catman and Batman to be a thing in the comic book, and all right, that's fine. But in all honesty, I don't know that Batman is a guy who really needs to be married.
No.
I agree, and
He is
it
married.
just
He's married to his crusade.
he
That's what he's
is.
married to.
But the last person he should be marrying is Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they have a passion toward each other, they have a lust toward each other, but they are bad for each other without
Yeah.
question. Um,
Toxic.
and, yeah, and it's just not who Batman should be with. The
Mm-hmm.
whole Talia al Ghul thing either. We don't need that psychopath either.
Mm-hmm.
If you are going to marry Batman, it needs to be to a good, strong woman. Now I
Yeah.
know they try to push, and particularly in the DC movies with Batman and Wonder Woman, which once again, it's kind of dumb. It doesn't make sense. She is pure justice. He is justice, but it's also, he's got some of that revenge in him. He's got that
Yeah.
angst in him, you know. But freaking King, man. Um, uh, I'm glad that the people over at DC knew better than to allow this to be canon, and they kind of cut it off onto its own. The
Mm-hmm.
art looks great, by the way.
It
But
does look.
it's just dumb, dude. Stop it. You don't understand Batman. This is not how you do Batman. And in the end, the whole 12 issue run is just about Slay Queen, Slay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Um,
just. Eh.
so screw you, King. But Corlac, or Ben says, I was always more of a fan of Batman and Wonder Woman. Yeah, I don't like them together either. I personally think the only logic in it is Superman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that makes sense to me
Yeah.
too. I think Batman. Honestly, he works better as a bachelor. And I just don't
Yeah.
think Bruce would ever allow himself to fall in love like that.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Like not just the emotional. Obviously he'll still feel emotions. He loves Selena.
He does love
But
her. Yeah.
he's not going to allow that to compromise his mission. He is married to his crusade. He calls it, well, he doesn't, but the universe calls it a crusade. This is a near religious devotion he has to fighting crime and trying to protect Gotham
Yeah.
and the world. He's not going to sacrifice that for his own happiness. He's just not going to do it. That's not who he is.
No,
That's
it
what
would
makes
be
him a hero.
it would be anathema to him. Yeah.
Yes.
And he's just I know that a lot of arguments about characters getting married and stuff, and a lot of them I would like, yeah, go ahead, but not Batman. He should not ever be married. It's just not what he is. It doesn't work.
No.
But I just put this up here to mention it because I actually read a couple of the books in this series, and the art is freaking fantastic, dude. It's stunning art, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just not Batman, and it's clear once again that they don't know the character. They just don't know the
What you're
character.
saying is Tom King, once again, does the same storyline again
Yeah.
that he
Yep.
always does.
Yes.
The
He's
main
got one.
character dies.
Yeah.
Tom, we get it,
Such
buddy.
a
You need psychiatric help. I
We know.
understand. I'm not
Yeah.
even being funny.
he's
I'm
an
worried about
absolute
him.
hack.
He
He
is.
always writes the same story, and it's always either some kind of suicide or attempted suicide, or the main character dies in the end, and it's like, bro, are you trying to tell people
He got-
something through your art here
Yeah.
that you're like, because he has a past on him, so go get some help, Tom. Stop writing such dour stuff, bro. Stop. Just stop.
How about stop writing in general and just go get some help?
Yeah, that would be better.
Fucking hell.
Although Man's art in this series is freaking fantastic.
Am I supposed
that's
to
great art.
suspend the idea and belief that the Joker, like a relationship between the Catwoman and the Joker, the Batman would not know about
Right.
Yeah.
I
and
mean
would be stupid enough to be killed by him?
that's my point. His superpower is knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I know Ben Affleck made the joke, "What's your superpower? Money. I'm a
Money.
billionaire."
I'm
No,
rich.
I mean it certainly doesn't hurt, but that's not it. Is he knows everything? He's prepared for everything. I mean, a lot of people talk about Superman being the Boy Scout. Now Batman's the Boy Scout, dude, without question, because
In
he's
the
always
most
prepared.
literal sense.
In the
Yeah,
most
he's
literal
always
sense.
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's really sad that the younger generations don't do Boy Scouting because it's very useful for for a young man. But nevertheless, fuck you, Tom King. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tom, just
Exactly.
stop, buddy.
Yeah, but
Please. We're
more
begging you to
importantly
stop.
than that, though, dude, we have to be thankful that the people in charge
Oh,
over there
God.
were like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that, and they moved it
Yeah.
into
Well-
this world.
At least they were smart enough for that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, got to give them credit for that. Anyway, so what I wanted to do now is kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about San Diego Comic-Con. Now,
Oh, boy. This is just what it needs.
Yeah.
San Diego Comic-Con enforcing vaccine passport in their first event in 3 years.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, because we know artists who would go to San Diego Comic-Con, including Mike,
oh sure,
it's been dying for a long time. It's been shrinking. Yeah. It's not as big as it used to be. The industry doesn't treat it as big a deal as they used to. Now, they probably will with this one, since it's the first one back from COVID, so they're going to probably try and
not
put on a
too
big
fast.
show. Yes.
Don't get ahead of me.
But this is stupid. And the reason why this is stupid is because you're putting another barrier to entry for people who might want to come and enjoy this festival, this Comic-Con. There's no good reason to do it. There's just not. I'm sorry to burst everyone's bubble, but there's just not. There's no even now, the vaccines that we have for COVID are trivial compared to compared to stopping spread. It's trivial. They last for maybe a week or two after you get them. From the data I've seen, there's just no reason to do this other than some kind of weird grandstanding.
Oh, that's California, dude, because most places aren't wearing masks anymore at all.
Exactly. I haven't. I don't even own one anymore. I threw them all away. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, but
it's annoying.
It is, but it's deeper than you think, right?
Uh-oh.
Not only are they requiring masks, because you do have to wear a mask. They require, unless you're a celebrity, then you're cool. And they even say that in the article. Celebrities are fine. They're special. They get special
They've got special immune
special,
systems.
special.
Yeah.
But not only do you have to wear the mask or have the vaccine passport, if you don't, you have to have a medical report that has been done within the testing within the last 72 hours for them to let you in the door.
Then I just won't go.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
simple as
yeah.
that. That's my
I know
point. You're shooting
my
yourself in the
friends are.
foot.
This is a problem with quite a few cons. My friends were trying to go to a con this year, and they were trying to get me to go, and I was like, "No, I'm not going," because it's absurd. Like, I hope this just kills the cons for the time being, because that's what they deserve by just giving into this crap.
Well, it found the niche in the armor of E3, didn't it? Because E3's dead, right?
Yeah,
At least San Diego Comic Con is still exist. Although I don't know if it's going to survive this because they
I don't think
said
it's going to survive.
I don't think either, and I'll give you some more information I have collected here to talk about it. But they said they're expecting 130,000 people. No way, dude.
No way.
There's no way. No way. Because keep in mind, there's been many cons already this year at other places, and you have people with not having to wear masks, just going and enjoying the con as usual. No vaccine
Yeah, you're
passport,
right.
none of that nonsense. People are going and having fun. The cosplayers, events have become all about the cosplayers anyway.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
merchandising for the big companies. But here, of course, the cosplayers are going to have to wear masks. I guarantee you they're not going to show up, a lot of them, or they won't enter the venues at all. So even children have to wear these damn masks and have these passports, by the way. California's, I don't think this is necessarily Comic Con's doing more than it is California's doing.
yeah, I guarantee it's California.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you do realize what you're hearing in the news if you're paying attention. Of course, the Democrats don't want Biden to run again, right? Which is
Right.
very weird, but they don't want him to run.
Clearly,
You know who they do want to run
it's
again?
Oh
Newsom.
yeah.
It's Newsom.
It's
They want
Newsom.
Newsom.
That
Yeah. Good
absolute
luck.
train wreck.
That's why he's got that ad going after DeSantis now.
Yeah. And it's like, well, why, once again, you're going with a guy who's completely unelectable with the rest of the country, just like Hillary. But that's what they're just idiots. But California is the most cancerous, toxic environment to live in America right now. Although I would argue Hawaii is worse. But nevertheless, if you're planning on going to Comic Con, you're going to see this dude in your face. He's going to say, "Get the fuck out of my shop." Okay. But the celebrities are fine. The celebrities are going to be able to go without their masks, and they'll do all their little special important stuff. So therefore, it's coming up here on the 21st, I believe, is when it starts. What, Thursday or something like that. I'm happy it's going on, but I know they're once again talking about nails in coffins, right? Because I'll get to this in a minute. I'll come back over and look at that in a second, but take a look at this.
Warner Brothers Discovery drops DC Comics from Comic Con floor. Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
So Comic Con has basically become, like you said, about the cosplay, which
Yeah.
is fine. I have no problem
And
with
the
that.
commercialism. Yeah.
But
Commercials. Yeah.
now they're going to make the cosplayers all ruin their cosplay by wearing masks. So you're again just right in your own foot, just blowing off your own toe. What are you doing? If for some reason let's say it is California that's imposing this on them, because San Diego is a fairly conservative, well, for California standards, fairly conservative place. So let's say it's California imposing it on them, and it's not just their own retardation. Leave. Just go somewhere else with it.
Right.
There's Comic Cons all over the place. Just be like, we're not doing San Diego this year. We're going to do Phoenix or something.
Well, yeah,
right?
and
Just
like WonderCon
boom.
didn't have these problems, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but I'm going to get into this a little bit. But Ben, you're going to get dogpiled with statements like that.
What he said. Let's see.
He says, "Give me
Oh
Daddy
God.
Newsom."
Oh God, he would like you some. Oh,
Yeah, no,
Ben, buddy, you're
He's
you're
just trying to
smarter
trick
than
me.
that.
Yeah, he's tricking me. But anyway, so Zaslav has made the decision. It's really
Yeah.
his choice, and very clearly, this isn't speculation. He said no. And honestly, he's trying to get that house in order, and he has some serious problems he's trying to deal with. I'm sure it's very expensive to set up the way they do with those cons. Have you ever seen the setups for that they do at the Comic Cons? So we're not going to get anything from them other than various people being on panels, right? And these are some of the panels that will be there, even though there will be no presence of DC itself. That's a big hit for a Comic Con, by the way, because when you go around a
Yeah.
Comic Con, you have lots of cosplayers, you have people selling various shit, and you have a huge chunk of the room taken up by DC and the other side taken up by Marvel, right? And you have like an artist rally area, and that's about it. Independent people don't get much space at the Comic Cons, right? So you've
Right.
just taken away half your show.
Yeah.
So wow, dude. But anyway, let's take a look at some of the the panels that you can actually check out that are DC related. So you got Jim Lee and Friends.
Oh boy.
It could be fun.
That I wouldn't mind seeing, actually. Jim Lee's cool. I like Jim Lee.
Yeah. We have Gotham, which is they're going to be talking about this panel is going to be deep into some of the heroes, anti-hero, supervillains that make up Gotham, the Wild City, and all the comics. They're going to have Ben Abernathy. It's going to
Mhm.
be moderated and discussing with Ram V. I don't know who the hell that is. Detective Comics. Sean Gordon Murphy. That could be interesting. Teeny Howard and Jack. I don't know who Jack is. Jock. I don't know who that is.
That word.
Yeah. So the only one on there that's interesting to me would be Sean Gordon Murphy.
Sean Gordon Murphy.
Yeah.
And Jim Lee. I would love to see Jim Lee go.
Yeah, but it might just be fun. These seem to be just talking about comics, which is cool. Dark Crisis, which is going to be introducing a new thing coming up in the comics. Okay, fine. Tom Taylor. Oh fuck. Tom Taylor and Tom King in conversation.
Lord, can we just
Uh,
like if we have an intervention for Tom King there? Like,
Right. Right.
can we
Uh,
can we get that going on Reddit or something or
yeah.
through the
But
through the
I wonder how
through
empty
the
that
circle?
room will be.
Oh,
yeah.
there'll be people there, I guarantee. But
Now, some people love Tom King. They
yeah,
genuinely,
there are
and I don't
people.
understand it.
Yeah.
He's miserable. His writing is miserable.
Yeah.
It's not fun to read. It's not entertaining at all. It's obviously a very angry, damaged man writing these books.
No,
Miserable
obviously.
and
Yeah.
he baits people constantly,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it,
he
it
does.
gets
He
old.
does. Yeah. Comics are fun for everyone. No matter this panel, it says no matter if you are a casual fan, a young adult fan, completely new to comics, or a weekly warrior. Okay. Comics are meant to be fun and for everyone. Okay. Yeah. We'll be highlighting comics and graphic novels from across the DC multiverse, as well as animation and more in this fun filled panel. DC senior editor Katie Kubert will be joined by Daniel Warren. Johnson and Juan Gideon, Cami Garcia, Becky Cloonan, and Michael Conrad. I don't know any of these people other than Kubert.
I know Daniel Warren Johnson and I know Becky Cloonan. I've read their stuff.
What do you think?
I mean, I love Daniel Warren Johnson's art. He's an amazing artist, and
Cool.
he writes some pretty good books. He's the one that did that crazy off the wall Wonder Woman book, Dead Earth or whatever, where she's like,
Oh yeah.
it's like in a post-apocalyptic kind of
Right.
weird
Yeah.
barbaric
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah.
Becky Cloonan, she's an all right artist too. She's a little bit more progressive for my taste, but her art's pretty like she's a decent writer. She does okay.
It could be a fun conversation though, as long as they stay on target, right?
I would just go there just to hear Daniel Warren Johnson, probably.
Yeah. It depends if they try to turn this into some kind of PSA about
It's
diversity. It's going
probably
to
going to be
suck.
that.
But if
It's
it,
probably going to be that.
but
That There's a lot of code words in that description, I feel.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of worried about. This one worries the only one that really worries me. I'm not interested in the toms at all.
No.
But anyway, I do appreciate that they put in some shots of DC presentations at former Comic Cons, because
Yeah.
it shows you what they're going to miss out on. Because there's some really
Oh
cool
yeah.
stuff from DC, dude. These are like life-size statues, by the way.
Yep.
So they're freaking awesome. I have seen them. This is just a little bit of display here. You can go up and get things signed in the artist alleys that they control. This, I've seen better pictures and better layouts, but they just do a lot. It's a big, huge presence at a Comic Con. Marvel and DC, Marvel and DC, Marvel and DC, and you're not going to get any of it, man. Any of it. Uh,
Crazy.
yeah, and that's a shame. That is really a shame. But Zaslav made a choice, and I bet you he made the right choice for the right reason. In this
So far,
regard.
I've liked pretty much every choice he's made. Um, I think he's doing exactly as he said he was going to do. He is trimming the fat and he's tightening up righting the ship as much as he can, tightening down the hatches, and trying to cut things off that don't directly lead them to money. Because, like we said,
Yeah.
Comic Con is dying, and it's been dying
Yeah.
for a
It is.
long time. I know even before COVID that you didn't a lot of the big movies and stuff, Marvel, they weren't doing their big announcements at Comic Con anymore. They would do it somewhere else, or they'd do it on their own thing, or whatever. And it's just because there's various reasons, but it just wasn't drawing like it used to. It had lost the prestige, it had lost the whatever you want to call it, the attention, just like E3 did. And it just is what it is. There's ways maybe to get it back, I guess, but I don't think the will's there. I
Yeah,
think they're happy with just having their convention and moving on.
and one of the things I think that's hurt them with, particularly with Comic Con, I know there are other Comic Cons that are doing better, but Comic Con specifically, the brand. One of the things I noticed with it is that, okay, you got one or two stages. Usually they'll run and they'll do little things. Like on other stage, it'll be small and little things, and then they'll have a big stage where they'll do bigger. Actual stars will show up and stuff. But one of the problems with it is it's overly commercial, right?
Hmm.
And
Way too commercialized.
you
It's gotten bad
well, and
commercialized.
one of the shocking things about it was if I go to a Comic Con, and I want to buy some things, what's the number one thing I want to buy at a Comic Con, you think?
Not
Usually,
comics, not
or,
anymore.
Well, you would think comics, right? But
right, at a
no, good
Comic
luck
Con.
finding a comic book to buy at a
Not
Comic
at
Con.
San
Right.
Diego.
No. And it's like, what? Huh? It's very
Yeah.
strange, and it's ridiculous. It should be just a smorgasbord of comics and trades and all kind of stuff, but it is not. And all you have
If
is
you want
Marvel
that, you
and
go to the
DC.
smaller
You
cons.
do. That's right, and
Like,
that's why they're still popular. But all you get
yeah,
is Marvel and DC shilling their new shit at you, and Funko fucking Pop, right?
Yeah.
And some celebrity charging outrageous amounts of money to say hi to them and
right.
get a selfie, which I paid because my daughter was like, I want to see the Loki. I was like, fine, don't even
Oh,
ask.
fine.
But
Oh, fine.
it's hundreds of dollars, dude,
So
hundreds of
was
I
dollars.
Tokyo
know.
Con a lot like that too?
Yeah, no, it's the same. Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
point because it's a Comic Con. It's not a comic book convention. It's the Comic Con
yeah,
brand, right? And
right.
and I think that's what killed them. And the thing is, it just shocked me, dude. How in the hell am I at a comic book convention and I can't buy comic books? What
That
the
is
hell,
shocking.
dude?
The last one I went to was in 2019, and I went to Chicago Con, which was Wizard, but they don't call it Wizard anymore. I can't remember what they call it. And there was like comics out the wazoo. Like it was it. I was amazed at how much comics I did end up getting at that con, because I had been to a bigger con prior to that, and it was kind of similar. There was not much comic vendors at all,
Yeah,
if any.
and
But
I would
this
have
one,
dropped a
the
lot of money
Chicago
too.
Con that I went to was huge. There was a bunch. like vendors with comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything I've heard of like these bigger cons like DC or San Diego and these other like Comic Con as you call it brand, it's just not that anymore.
No, no, it's unfortunate. And there's a lot of things that have kind of become that way. They've lost their soul,
Yeah,
is what it is. And
I,
maybe
I yeah.
that's what maybe Zaslav was saying is like it's going to cost us a lot of money. We're in a real chaotic time right now, and it just doesn't have the draw. Let's not bother with it. And all of this nonsense he was seeing about the laws that they're laying down, he might well say, well, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt people coming. Uh, so
There's
uh,
that. I think it's a bit of an indictment upon the comic book industry as a whole.
It is. It is. And keep in mind, though, that Marvel is going. They are promoting it. They're going to
Of
be
course they
live.
are.
Well, it's not only that they're going; they're also going to do the thing that they've been doing recently, where they run around on you can, I guess, on the YouTube or on the Marvel Comics page here, and they will have a camera running, going around and look at this thing and look at that thing,
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
you know. Which the way these Comic Cons run now, there's not much to look at really. It's not like the old E3 where I go and sit on with GameSpot or IGN and watch, not even necessarily live, but just watch their walking tours around the E3, and that was a lot of fun because there's a lot to see, lots of video games, because it's a
Oh yeah.
freaking video game conference. But what are you going to show off? What is Marvel going to show off at a Comic Con? They're not. They're going to
Probably,
have the celebrities sit up and do little interviews. You know that's what they're going to do, dude.
Yep.
probably have some cooking class for
Get
Oh,
Marvel
back real quick.
cooking.
I'm going to get into that. Give me a second. Give me a second. Don't get ahead of me. But
Okay.
we got these blow ups of Venom and Spider Man. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. But anyway, but Marvel's going to be there, and I don't think it's going to be fun at all. But I don't know if you guys have noticed, and we've talked about this a little bit, Adrian. Whereas we're seeing a lot of these companies like Marvel, Ubisoft, these kind of big companies, and they'll do those kind of "Hey, fellow kids" type of interviews or presentations. Have you been noticing
Yeah.
these?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've paid attention to these. Yes.
It's like, Jesus, how awkward are you, dude? It's like, haven't you ever
Well,
spoken before? What the hell are you doing?
yeah. It's like the presentation that they did for the book. What was the New Warriors book that they did like a couple years back that
Right,
failed upon arrival?
right, yeah. No, 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 and they do that a lot of it. It's very awkward, and it's not just Marvel. It's many companies are doing this, and
Oh
it's
no,
like,
it's a bunch of them.
and I've seen interviews like at E3 is a good example, where they'll sit down with video game content creators, right? And they'll talk about the game, and they're just people talking about a game, dude, right?
Yeah.
Even like Giant Bomb, if you're watching those guys and their conversations, it's just dudes talking, right? But there's this weird, awkward, alien people that we've seen so
It's
much.
it's fake.
It is
It's all
fake, yeah.
fake. None of these people are real fans. They don't even act. They don't sound like fans. They're paid for commercialized fakery. Is all it is. Like it's just like the sad stream that they did of DC that you were talking about like years ago, like a couple years back or whatever, and they just put Jim Lee in the corner. Of course,
They
they got
did.
Kevin Smith out there, an actual comic book fan, but you tell me who the other people on those panels were. They were like fakery. It was all fakery, which
They
is
were.
why it got rated and made fun of in real time.
It did, and we experienced it. It was fun. But no, I mean, you see stuff like, "Hey, John, what do you think about this new character?" "Well, Pete, I think he's going to be the best. It's awesome."
Yes. Yes.
It's like,
Wait, that's not how
who?
you speak to every
No,
normal person? Wait,
no.
what?
And
Wait a
and they
minute.
every time. "Well, thank you, Pete. That was a good idea, Pete. Good idea, Pete. Excellent,
Yeah.
Pete."
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's so
Yeah.
bizarre, and I know I'm gonna watch this, and maybe I'll even watch a live here. Well, I won't be able to. Maybe I'll watch a recording of it because I guarantee you these are gonna be just like that, dude. They're gonna be
Oh yeah. Yeah.
awkward
You're
and
right.
weird. Yeah.
I mean,
Um.
I'll give you like so I know Wizards of the Coast is bad, like they're terrible, right?
They are.
But if you watch some of the D&D like presentated streams and stuff, like what was the one? Uh, they did like one a while back. I can't even remember what it was called now, but uh, where they were like doing like all day streams, basically, right?
Right, right.
At least I will give them the credit to say that none of it came off as fakery. They had like the Critical Role people there. They had like D&D celebrity, like, but these people you could tell were actually fans of D&D. They
Sure.
weren't just faking it,
Well,
you
the
know?
people that they were interviewing were normal, but the interviewers weren't.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the people that were running it and everything too.
All right.
Like the
Okay.
people
Okay.
interviewing, all of it were people that were involved within the D&D community that has exploded online basically. And
Mhm.
like you could at least see that there was no that it wasn't fake, right?
Well, yeah, and no, you're right. But the thing with WotC and
Well,
D&D and or tabletop in general, it has blown up. Board games was the kind of gateway drug to it, to be honest with you, with the
yeah, yeah,
explosion in the 90s
100%.
of board games. And we got a lot of these modern, I guess they're not yuppies, they call them hipsters, I guess, these days, which are
Yeah,
kind of the
sure.
progressive
Hipsters.
crowd, have gotten into it. And I say the more the merrier. I'm completely happy with it. And we've seen some with WotC stuff, with the nonsense, with the orcs, and the gay agenda stuff. But it's periphery at best, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
um, and the thing is, seeing as we do want to be inclusive, I don't mind that everyone having a seat at the table. Right. And I know we
Sure.
we kind of knee jerk reaction to WotC on a lot of occasions, and some of it's warranted, but it's not as bad as say what we were talking about earlier with Doctor Who or freaking Ubisoft. I mean, Jesus, I saw here a week ago or something that Black it was it Black Sails
Yeah,
launch. Oh Jesus, dude. I saw it live. I was watching with Raptor. I like the Raptor channel. And it was
Mhm.
so
yeah.
awkward and lame, dude. It was so lame. And this is the problem with a lot of these companies these days that are trying to appeal to everyone at the same time. What it ends up doing is you just become lame. It's lame as shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And, whatever. But WotC is not as bad as you think it is. It's not. There are some idiots over there for sure. But it's just not as bad. And I think it's because it's just a broad group of people and everyone's allowed a voice, and that's fine,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah. I my biggest problem with them is more the choices of how they uh I don't know, just some of the rules that they've done
Well, fifth edition
lately.
is shit. It is shit. Yeah.
Yeah,
um
yeah, it's streamlined
Too
D&D,
much.
but
It's too much.
it limits what you can do.
It
Like
does.
100%
No, I
limits.
mean, me personally, I play through 3.5, third edition is the way to go. Having a bit of nostalgia going back to first or second edition or even basic, fine, have some fun. But and fourth edition is not D&D. It's trying to make D&D to a tabletop card game is what it was trying to do. But third
It,
edition is where it's at. That's the most robust and most useful rule set for D&D. Fifth edition is it's once again lame.
yeah.
Yeah.
But my point to being was like you compare like I think it was the Stream of Annihilation if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
If you compare that to like what you see coming out of Marvel, it's
Oh yeah,
a
yeah,
complete
yeah, yeah, yeah,
opposite
yeah.
of
No, you're right.
like
You're right.
marketing. The
Yeah,
marketing strategy is totally
absolutely
different.
true. Yeah, because it's real. Those are real people. Marvel stuff
Yeah.
is completely fake. None of those people saw an Amanat. None of those people give a shit about comics ever, ever. All they
No.
care about is their lifestyle brand.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Marvel's shit, and we know they're shit. They're much worse than DC, and thank you, Zaslav, for just snoping out of it. However, let's take a look at some of the programs we can get to check out. You guys ready? You excited? What panels we can go see?
So
Because
excited.
well, there's not going to be much to look at because it's only going to be Marvel. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're just gonna be promoting whatever new thing they have, and everyone's going to be with their masks on. But anyway, let's take a look here. So at 4 p.m. Wednesday, July 20th. We are going to start. So there you go. What are we? 2 days away? Okay. Teaching and learning with comics, an interactive workshop. Helen Price, reading room. Okay, so who's going to be involved in this? I'm not going to click on every one of these, but I do want to take a look at some. So let's check it out. Let's see who's going to be teaching, because it could be cool. Learn how to make draw the comic book way. There's a book that Stan Lee put out, but okay. All right, so let's see here. Description. We have Peter Carlson, Green Dot Public Schools. Okay. Susan Kirtley, Portland State University. Oh, it's not okay. Antero Garcia, Stanford University. Oh, lead this hands-on workshop designed for educators looking to integrate comics into classrooms. Attendees will participate in activities that model a comic oh Jesus pedagogy that develops superhero readers, writers, critical thinkers, and creators. Workshop materials will be provided, and everyone is welcome. I'm a bit concerned about who the people are, but it could be fun.
Yeah. This whole comics in school thing has gotten old.
I haven't used many comics in my classroom. You know what I have used is board games, though. Board games are
Because that
great.
makes more sense.
It does. It does. But I don't know. It could be fun. I guess. But miniature painting, that's straight up, right? Fanboy gaming, open play. Ooh, what's that? Let's see here. No, nothing. Choose to play a selection of games. What video games, board games? What kind of games? Come on, Comic
It's like a
Con.
section devoted to tabletop games of some sort.
Maybe that could be fun. Go to us because they don't have DC. Maybe they had to fill the space, and they decided to do a board game library setup, because you can rent those, right? I actually know a few guys who have companies where they go around to cons and they have like hundreds and hundreds of board games they set up, and it's like a library, and they
Oh
have
yeah.
like little tags, right? That could be
Yeah,
fun.
every con I've been to has some kind of section for board games now.
Yeah, that's fun, and it's fun. It is, and the library system these guys have set up for you to use are wonderful, right? Food Wars, hey, yeah, that's what we need with our comic books. And no, where's my description? No description, nothing, nothing. This is the Comic Con official homepage, by the way. Why does it
Yeah.
suck so bad? Excuse me. You guys do something once a year in San Diego, once a year, and your homepage can't be descriptive. Can't. What the hell, Thundero? Anyway.
Served list we have.
Oh well, but if it were I get to throw food at Chip Zdarsky, I'm in, or CB Sobalski, I'm
I'd
in.
pay some money for that.
I pay money for that. More miniature painting, which is awesome.
I
Dark.
think we should bring back throwing tomatoes at people. I
I
think that's a
do agree. Dark
good way to
Crystal.
keep them in line.
Let's see here. This is just talking about the old movie, even though they have new stuff coming out.
I do.
Huh.
Yep.
Let's see. Came in celebrating 40th anniversary on a distant world. Da da da. So, well, this might be fun. Maybe.
Yeah.
Game library, which must be the same. That's got to be somehow connected to this fanboy open play, right? But
Yeah.
Scried, what's this here? Nothing. No information at all. Have no freaking clue.
What lazy son of a gun did this website?
I know, dude. The irresponsible Captain Taylor. Okay.
Okay, well that's anime, like an
Yeah.
old anime.
Yeah. More just painting and library, open play library stuff. Grimoire of Zero.
Another anime.
Yeah.
Or
No information. Zero information.
not
Not even telling you what it is. It just says anime as a tag. I mean, this is lazy, dude.
very bad. I think Scryed might be an anime too, actually.
Right.
I just never
And
watched
this Sorcerer's Hunters is definitely one. Star Trek Wrath of Khan
Oh yeah.
might be mine.
Jeez, did they pick like all the '90s anime? Because I'm pretty sure like most of this stuff came out in the '90s.
It's a lot of old stuff. But then again, that's the problem. The new stuff just isn't selling, dude. Just isn't selling.
Boogie Pop Phantom is an old anime. Like
Yeah,
all these
Blade
animes that I
Runner.
see listed here are old.
Yeah.
So
Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? No, of course not.
okay, that's a newer one.
It's the best place ever. Once again, it's just another anime. So a lot of just little panels talking about stuff, which is fine. But Restaurant to Another World must be an anime, and then the library. So, I mean, we can
Is
go
this
through every
is this
day.
Anime Con or Comic Con?
Looks like Anime Con to me. More
Jeez.
anime, Todd McFarlane, okay. Moon Magic Girl, Todd. More anime, lots of Jesus, dude. A lot of anime.
Yeah.
You got Simon. Why is Simon at a comic book convention? Please, someone.
Yeah.
Someone, anyone.
Another indictment of the current Western comic book industry, right there.
Yeah, I mean, I love Simon, but what do they have to do with comic books? I mean, it's a board
No,
game
I'm just
company.
saying. Yeah, yeah, I know. What I'm saying is like the fact that there's this much anime taking up time at the Comic Con.
Yeah, no, and not a
They
comic
have
book
their own
stuff.
cons. They just had a huge anime
Sure,
con.
they did, right? They did, absolutely did. But it's I'm not seeing a lot of dumb shit though, which is good. But it is weird because it's mainly not comic book stuff we're talking about here. It's
I
I don't
see
know.
one that's interesting. Bringing back Marvel character or Marvel classic for today's readers for all
Oh
ages.
wow, this has actually a description. Okay, Steve Larson. Okay. And Andrew Smith, Matthew Reinhardt discussed the legacy of classic Marvel comics and how books for readers of all ages are bringing classic characters and storylines to a new generation. Yeah, that's cool. But I mean, there's not a lot of
Maybe
comic
not
book stuff
killing
here.
them and not kicking them out of their books might help. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
Just
maybe.
that's an
Well,
Um,
now
idea.
you're just being pedantic.
but
Yeah, I
but
am.
you are right. There's a lot of non comic book stuff going on here. This one right here, of course, we haven't seen much though. From cosplay to fan fiction, how do we create a more diverse and inclusive community? Yeah, well, it's always been that way. Fuck off.
Always
Uh,
been that way.
yeah, but okay, so that's dumb. But most of this is it's not that it's not woke shit. It's just not comic books, dude. Look at it all. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean,
No, I'm
I'm
noticing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they got a lot of stuff for people to go and do, but it's not. If I were there for comic books, I'd be a little mad.
Yeah. Well, here's a clue. The people that go to Comic Cons for comic books don't go to San Diego Comic Con.
Obviously not. And like I said, you can't buy comic books there. But look, we got Steve Jackson Games, and they're going to be doing Munchkins, which is
Yeah,
great. But I mean, once
not
again,
surprised.
board game, tabletop stuff. A lot of anime, dude. There's Pathfinder, dude. What is all this board game stuff showing up at a Comic Con?
Oh yeah, it's all over.
Holy man. And of course, here's the stuff they were talking about. We talked about already. More dungeons, lots of Dungeons and Dragons. Card Captor Sakura. Jesus, how old are you? Far are you going back, dude? Um,
That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of this anime I'm seeing listed here is like old school anime.
very
Like
old.
they're not even touching on the new stuff.
No. Video game stuff, card games, Magic. The
Come
Gathering.
on.
Maybe. Wow, dude. Wow. I'm not going to go through all of it, but there is a lot of content. There is a lot to do, and that's cool. And there's
I mean, it's
choices.
huge, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's not about comic books, though. It's weird.
So, so you said what the DC panels were, right?
Yeah.
What's Marvel's panels?
Marvel panels. Let me do a real quick check. Okay, here we go. Here's their panel lineup. Because these DC stuff was very few, but it was pretty straightforward. Yeah. Let's see here. 60 Years of Spider-Man. Cool. Marvel Fanfare. Look, at least Marvel's site is descriptive. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Uh, Marvel Universe, Illuminati have Poker Night. Oh, okay. Marvel Comics Judgment Day. I knew they were announcing that. I heard that. Next Big Thing. Okay, whatever. Women of Marvel. All right, whatever. Not much, very little,
Yeah.
very little. Just like DC is doing very little. And the only good thing I saw looking through those 2 days is at least there's not a lot of woke nonsense. Right?
Mm.
That's not a lot. It's just not comic book related. It's kind of weird. Therefore, you might want to change the name of it. Maybe it shouldn't be Comic Con anymore, seeing as there isn't much
Yeah.
comic book stuff and you can't even buy comic books. Maybe
Well,
they should.
people have been talking about that idea for a while to change the name entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I agree, Ben, when you talk about the fifth edition build stuff. But yeah, no, I think they need to change it because the thing is, there's other cons that are they're doing quite well, right?
Hmm.
That are just fine.
Yeah.
They're not reducing their gaining in grounds. Gen Con is I don't know ever not grown, and it's a lot of fun. They've been doing some dumb stuff with the woke assholes that are in charge, and they are hurting themselves. But like, say for instance, you go to Essen. Essen, of course, is in Germany, but I mean, if I said, what if I asked you, Thundero, what should a
Hmm.
board gaming convention look like?
It should have board games
Yes,
all over it, like just
tons of
many,
them.
numerous,
Right.
a multitude, even Chester,
Hmm.
a multitude of them.
Maybe even hundreds of
Plethora,
booths with different
a
companies.
plethora of board
A
games.
plethora.
Yeah,
But
plethora.
the board game companies with booths selling their modern stuff and their old stuff, other people selling stuff just wholesale, stuff that's like board game every freaking way you turn, right?
They should also do auctions,
Yep. Oh,
maybe
they
for
do,
specific
and they're
things and
great,
things like this.
right?
Like it should be about your 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 con should be about celebrating the thing that's brought everybody together.
Right, right. And
And all of it, not just certain aspects of it. Like you said, there's not a lot of it, but it's still there. The weird woke nonsense about adversity and all these
whatever.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't mind if you get a panel or two about that. That's fine. It's just a couple years ago, everything
Well,
was that
I
way.
only mind seeing as where's the ones that are. I mean, I guess there's a couple, fair enough, but where's like what we're talking about? The fact that that gets a place at the table, but comic books, well, at a comic convention, no. Now you're just
Yeah,
being
it's true.
ridiculous.
But you mentioned auctions, and actually,
Yep.
Tom over at the Dice Tower, which is a pretty influential channel and group of people when it comes to board games, particularly in America. I'd say internationally too. But they do an
I
auction.
watched them.
Yeah, well, then they're really great, and they do auctions at Gen Con and Essen and stuff like that. And those auctions are great because Tom is influential. He's well known. He seems to be a pretty nice Christian fella. And his son had died from some rare disease. I can't remember what it's called, but his auction is a charity. And what you do is you get a lot of board game creators because he knows everybody in the industry. We'll just throw a bunch of stuff at him for the auction every year. And of course, it's raising money for a charity. And the Ice Tower's not taking any of it. But you actually can get some pretty interesting collectible stuff because these companies will send out like a special thing for the auction, not the normal one you would buy in the store. So
Right.
auctions can be a lot of fun, actually.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's what should be happening at what is supposed to be the largest comic book convention, right? Comic Con,
right.
San Diego Comic Con specifically. It's where they used to go all the time to announce big movies and things and show
Hmm.
trailers and
Hmm.
stuff. And they still do a little bit of
They
that.
do. Yeah.
But you would think that would be the place for this kind of
Yeah,
auction where you could
you
draw
would
people
think.
from all over the world with rare books and things that they want to, you can put up big auctions, make a big deal of it. Like that one, I can't remember the name of it because my brain is dumb. But the big car auction that happens every year,
Oh
they
yeah,
do
yeah,
that with cars,
yeah,
and the people
yeah,
come literally from
Jackson,
all over the world. Yes,
yeah.
Jackson. They come
Bear
from all
Jackson.
over the world to bid on these cars, but spend ridiculous amounts of money on these rare cars. Why don't they have that exact same thing at San Diego Comic Con? There's literally no good reason not to do it, other than they don't really care about comics. They care about whatever the fuck they're pushing because it sure
Yeah.
ain't comic
Yeah,
books.
It's weird,
in
dude.
comics.
And honestly, Adrian was noticing all the anime. Actually, I'm seeing a lot more board game stuff, dude. Look at
I'm
Ravensdale.
seeing a lot of that too. I
Uh,
keep seeing the board game stuff now too.
I mean, it's all board game stuff, dude. It's so much board game stuff. And the thing is, I love that. but I would never assume or think that I'm going to go to a Comic-Con so I can see hundreds of board games being released and board game creators. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
come into my brain, dude.
So the only thing I can think of is this anime is just them showing anime.
Or maybe, yeah, maybe talk. I don't
Lack
know.
of
There might be
gender
panels. I
parity.
mean, they're just not giving any description, so I'm just guessing that might be.
Yeah.
Lack of gender parity in geek entertainment. Why
Oh
does geek
Lord.
entertainment need gender parity?
Yeah, but you're right. It's dumb. But a few years ago, before the pandemic, if we were looking at a Comic Con, it would have been like 90% that. And so it has
Yeah, you're right.
changed. It has changed. That's a good thing. But yeah, whatever. And it'll be a small room with like five
I do like that
pink
Jack Kirby's
hairs.
getting some love right there. The
Yeah.
Universal Cinematic influence of Jack Kirby. That's
Yep.
good.
And
He was
Yeah,
Conan
that's
in
Rager
cool.
as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Conan 90th anniversary.
Yep. That's nice. A lot more D&D stuff.
Jim Lee. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's good stuff. Hunter x Hunter. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
More
I
Simon.
think I
Simon is
think that I
running
mean there
every day
is.
of the con, Adrian.
They sure are.
Yeah, they are.
I think there's a lot of good stuff here. It's just this
Don't call it
this
Comic
feels
Con.
out of place. A lot of it feels out of place. Like there's way too much board game stuff for a comic convention.
Right.
And it's kind of a indictment, I think Adrian said, an indictment on the entire industry. The fact that they have to plug in all this other stuff just to have a convention when that shouldn't be the case. And it's one of the reasons why the comic book stores are dying, is because the only way for them to survive is to become these multi-purpose stores and not
Board
just
game
focused on
stores is what
comics.
they become. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know, dude. Well, first of all, there's a ton of content, and boy, you got choices because at each hour that something's going on, there you can't go to everything, dude. There are literally dozens of things happening at the same time. But I mean, look at the content. But it's just shockingly, even look at Simon's going all day, dude. CMON's coming hard on Comic Con, dude. But I mean, there's a lot of anime, but it's a lot of board game stuff. And it's not like I would be
Board games.
disappointed. I'd be, oh, cool, but I just wouldn't expect to see it there, right? And therefore, I
yeah.
wouldn't plan myself to see it there or go to see it. It's weird.
Dude, I didn't realize that Conan's 90th anniversary was this year. So you're telling me the geniuses at Marvel got the rights to Conan and lost them on the 90th anniversary of
They did.
Conan.
They did. They did. They
What
did.
a bunch of
Speaking
morons.
speaking of Conan and the 90th anniversary here, because I don't know what this Comic Con thing is. Looks like an absolute debacle. But I also would think it'd be sad if it went away. It didn't have a opportunity to improve itself. But
I
oh well,
agree.
oh well. But to end the day, I do have a Conan related topic.
Uh-oh. What's Conan up to? Red Sonja celebrates 50 years with Unbreakable solo series from Zub and Valletta.
Now, Giovanni is doing the art, and he's a great artist. I do love his art.
Yes.
Wonderful style. But am I supposed to like Jim Zub, or am I not? I don't know.
I
I
have
don't know
mixed
either.
feelings on Zoe.
Yeah, because
He's been hit or miss. Like, he has some good stuff, and then he has not so good stuff.
well, I've seen some stuff I like from Zub, and I
I,
gave
I
you all
like
that.
some stuff.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
don't
no,
say it too
I'm in
loud. The
agreement
chat
with
will
you.
yell at you.
Like, his Skull Kickers book was great.
Yeah, it's true. That is true.
And
But
some
for
of the Conan stuff I actually like too.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's what I mean. He's not bad for this
yeah,
kind of thing. I think he's good at this
no,
kind of
he's
thing.
good with this
Yeah.
stuff. This is his thing. This is his wheelhouse.
And of course Giovanni is amazing for that. I'm actually excited to see his style with Sonya. I'm interested in checking it out. I definitely want to see it. And it's from
Can they make
Dynamite.
that claim 50 years with Unbreakable solo series?
That's what they're saying. It's this is the 50th year of
Okay.
Red Sonja. I don't know. Is it not the 50th anniversary of Red Sonja? I don't know.
They're saying an Unbreakable solo series though. Like, is it Red Sonja Unbreakable? Is that what they're calling it?
I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's probably 50 years. I don't know. Like, Sonja is another character made by Robert E. Howard, so.
It is, but as far as comic book existence, but it says a new Unbreakable Red Sonja. And I'm just taking that as being the name, right?
Yeah,
So
I was reading it wrong, probably.
yeah,
That was my problem.
it's from Dynamite. So and who was it that just picked up the Conan license though? Who was that? I remember
Was it
seeing an article
Titan?
the other day. I can't,
Was it Titan?
man, maybe. Now Titan is the one that takes all the European
No.
stuff and
Well,
and
I think it was a European group that got it.
no, yeah, you said Titan. That does click in my head. They're the ones that did that wonderful job with the redrawing of Elric, right? And they did the
Yeah,
like the
I
shadow
believe
stuff.
they were the ones that did the. Yeah, I think they did
Yeah,
that.
that was spectacular. I mean, the
Yeah,
original
that
was
was
kind
good
of
stuff.
yeah, it was kind of
Yeah, it's
psychedelic-y, colorly, but
Titan
I like it.
Comics.
Yeah, Titan.
Titan
Yeah.
Comics acquired Conan Barbarian license from Marvel in 2023.
That could be good, dude. That could be really,
It
really good.
could.
Yeah, because they've done some good treatments on stuff, Titan, and I think they're a French company or something like that.
I'm not sure. See, the thing is that there already is Conan comics out of Europe that they call the Chimerian, I believe, or Chimerian, or however you want to pronounce it. And those are good books.
Well, it's pronounced Sumerian, but you okay? You go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, I don't know that that is good news. But this right here, it could be cool. Like I said, I've enjoyed some of Zub stuff, but I love Giovanni's art. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And of course, there have been some great Sonya books over the years done very differently. I mean, look at all the different ways to do Sonya, right? And here, of course, we got these are all Unbreakable stuff. But
Oh yeah,
just
there's been good stuff.
wonderful covers they got here, and from different people and different thinking. I like it. Any opinion on Red Sonja there, sir? Thundero?
Yeah, she's hot. Hopefully she stays that way.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about Vampirella. I talked about briefly because yeah, it's a hot character, but I went and looked into it, and it's a dumbass idea, dude. It's just stupid. It's
Yeah.
so stupid. And Red
It is
Sonja's
a very smart idea.
no, it's ridiculously dumb. It's lame. She's super hot though. But see, Red Sonja is mega hot too. But there's an actual cool story with Red Sonja, right?
Yeah.
So in my opinion, way superior. Way superior.
And
Um,
chainmail bikinis win.
they do
They
win.
simply win.
Yeah,
They don't have to make any sense. They don't make any sense at all, but they win.
it's true.
I mean, it's comics. They should make sense.
Which is your favorite cover here? What would you choose?
Oh, let's see here.
Let's make this picture bigger, shall we? Let's find out.
I can.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to do them one by one? All right, fine.
Let's see 'em.
Yes. Let's do it.
All right. So we have this one, which is done by see if I can read the R. Pearson, maybe.
Like
Yeah,
that.
I like that one.
It is nice, black and white. She's kind of
Action
looking
shot.
at you. Yeah. Although the horse is in more action than she is.
Yeah, but it's
She seems
typically
very
when you're
mellow
riding
for
a
what's
horse.
happening with that horse.
That's true.
Horse looks horrified.
Here is this is another one from this is one is from Par. This is a Par cover.
Mhm.
It's well done.
Mm.
Kind of boring.
A little bit boring. We have a younger Sonya here. Of course, the older one superimposed over the top, but it's not bad. It is kind of lifeless though.
Mhm.
Let's see here. This is CG created. Is that drawn? Do you guys think that's drawn?
No, that's not drawn. That even looks like it could be a model.
Looks like garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That hand is a mess.
I
What's
don't
going
like
on with
the
that hand in
Boring.
the hip there?
Absolutely boring.
Yeah, I can't read the name of the person. They were embarrassed, so they used the title to hide the name. Good. But it's not
Ho
good.
hum.
It's not good. Hello.
Okay.
That was nice.
Hello.
That's nice. Yeah, look at them thighs. Those thighs could crush a watermelon. Look at them.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm liking that one. I like the composition. I like there's the background's not
He likes the
boring. There's
thighs.
something.
Yeah. Mhm.
I
Yeah,
like the thighs. Yeah.
yeah. And with the Unbreakable here, either she has a small companion with her, or we're jumping back and forth through her life from her
Yeah, I was
childhood.
trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
That's looking like it might be something like that. Yeah.
yeah. That'd be cool. I'd be interested in that. But that's a nice looking one there.
Al said red Beyonce.
Red Beyonce, yeah. That's classic. Look how classic that
That's
is.
some classic looking
Yeah,
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. This is Finch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like Finch.
Yeah. But it's very
It's
classic.
good.
Very, very nice. Yeah, it's good. It's good. And then we have, oof.
Yeah, no.
I hate
Yeah.
when they use
I hate.
photography on covers.
Yeah, me too. It's so obnoxious.
It is, when they came out with the reintroduction, I forget what edition it is of Vampire the Masquerade and World of Darkness, and they went back
Yes.
to the original, Sire of Cain storylines.
Yeah.
And of course, it's got woke stuff in there, but whatever. But the art direction of that book is really the it's probably the best use of photography I've ever seen. I still don't like it, but they at least tried to mix the medium.
Yeah, they looked pretty. It looked pretty good. I've seen that book.
Yeah. I still hate photography when used in our artistic way, but that's got to be I mentioned because it's got to be the best one I've ever seen. The
I
best
just don't
photography.
like it in covers. If you throw it in like
No, I hate it.
like
Yeah.
other sections where it's like galleries or whatever, I'm fine with it. But the cover, I can't stand it.
And besides, dear, you're way too teeny and small in
Yeah,
every
she
Yeah.
ain't Red Sonja
possible
at all.
way.
She looks nothing like her.
Little old arms. Your breasts are barely registering with your
Yeah.
bikini there,
Yeah.
dear. Not nothing against you. I'm sure you're a wonderful person.
So I always heard there was a rumor that Red Sonja in the comic was based off of the girl that made ElfQuest, Wendy Pini or something like that, from back in the day, because she cosplayed as Red Sonja or something.
That's
That
interesting.
was a rumor I heard once, but I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, one of the best Red Sonja cosplay I've ever saw was Boris Vallejo's wife there,
Yeah,
Julie
yeah.
Bell.
Julia Bell,
Yeah,
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 I would
yeah,
agree with you there.
yeah. And then the anime one here. Uh, the
Wasn't
manga
sure
one.
what
That's pretty.
she really likes that sword.
She
Real
does,
fan of
but
it, man.
when I saw this, I was like, I like it, dude. I
I
like
like
it.
it.
Yeah,
I like it.
it's different. It's definitely different, but that could be a lot of
It's
fun.
different, but it's interesting. It's not
Yeah.
boring. There's
No,
even the pose. The pose is like isn't as boring. Like I don't know, just
it
the
is more
composition
energetic. You're
is
right.
good.
You're right.
There's something going on there, even though she seems to be standing still. If I had my pick,
Hmm.
ooh, it's probably the fourth one or the first one, and I'm probably gonna go with the first one because I love black and white.
It is nice. I think the first one is quite nice. And I normally would be the dude who chooses the fourth one. But
Mm,
I'm choosing the seventh one.
big fan of
It's a
it, huh?
good.
Yep, I like it. I know it's
Big
not,
fan.
it's weird, but I kind of like it. Well, what do you think, Thunder?
I mean, I got to go with that fourth
No,
one,
this one right here. I know.
obviously.
Okay, that's your favorite.
No, no,
Sorry.
no. I would probably kick her out of bed.
Oh,
The fourth one, she's just unattractive. The fourth one, yeah, that's to me that's Red Sonja. That's what Red
it
Sonja is
is.
built like.
It
She's
is.
a big barbarian bitch in chainmail bikini, and apparently has a little kid for some reason, and
Well,
is just gonna chop you up if you mess with her.
Well, only thing they give me here is the synopsis of Unbreakable Red Sonja reads: Red Sonja carries a hazy vision that lurks just out of reach in her memories. As she seeks out to figure out this mystery, it will unlock a journey of forbidden magic and searing steel. Moments from Sonja's past, present, and even the future will collide in a quest unlike any other our scarlet-haired hero has faced before.
I'll put her younger self in this book.
I'm kind of feeling that it's going to be
So,
her childhood.
hold
Yeah.
hold on, Chester. I want you to scroll back down and read what Sub was actually saying.
Where? Right here? I grew.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
that right there.
Okay. I grew up on a steady supply of sword and sorcery novels, comics, and games in my youth, and they indelibly imprinted on my mind in ways that inform all my writing, Zub said, of Unbreakable Red Sonja. I'm absolutely pumped for this. I have a lot more room to explore what drives Red Sonja and the depths she'll go to overcome threats that are wildly stacked against her. Hmm?
That right there, that is an example of not being fake. that that reads like somebody that is not being fake at all and
No,
just saying what they need to say in an interview, unlike a lot of these other writers that we've had to deal with over the years where they're just, crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
yeah, no, and she's just quoted. He's excited about it. Don't blame him. It's a cool character if it's done right. Just to kind of give a look at Giovanni here and see what we can expect, because those are we're looking at cover potentials, right? Optional
Yeah,
covers,
yeah.
I guess. Let me just put
See
in
some
art, I
interior.
guess, right? For the interior stuff. I do like Giovanni's take on things. I like it. His line arts are really strong. He a
Yeah,
lot
he's
of
got
times
strong line art.
they do, and they also put some interesting colors on him as well. Here's an example. It's wonderful. Look at that. I mean, look at that.
Yep.
And then of course the colored version of it. That's very nice, dude. It's very nice. That almost looks like Brightweiser's coloring. I wonder if it is.
It could
Does a
be.
little bit, doesn't it?
It,
Yeah.
it it might very well be.
Yeah, but Giovanni's a great artist. I do like his stuff, and I think it's a good choice for a Sonya book. Of course, it depends on the colorist, of course. But here you can look into his stuff and things he's done. Uh, I don't know if you
Great.
could. Let me do it easier. Let me do this here. And oh, did he? Is he the artist that Keanu hired? I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
Might have.
I didn't know that either.
Huh. Iron Giant stuff. This is just kind of collection, of course, the Akira stuff. Um, but anyway, this dude is really good artist. I think we're gonna see some really neat things from him. Jim seems to be excited, and I am too. Because we've been really hit and miss with Red Sonja over the past so often, and
Yeah,
it's just because in the modern zeitgeist, either people are afraid to just do Sonja or they want to change her, right?
right.
And it's like,
Yeah, I just don't want to do it right.
mm. And she's more than her sexy chainmail bikini, because she is. She's a much deeper character because she was
Oh
created
yeah.
by an actual author, a real talented writer. That's why she's more. Her backstory, what she is deeper. So show a little damn respect, man. And I don't understand why we can't have this sexy wild woman out there doing her thing when Conan never wears a damn shirt.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
what the hell, and that run we got with Conan here a while back. I can't remember who was doing that, but it was something with Marvel, right? I forget who was doing the writing. The art wasn't bad.
Jason Aaron did like first started it off, and it was oh, the guy that did God Butcher. doing the art.
Right. And I saw a couple of things actually, different art, different books. They had a few books,
Yeah,
but
yeah. And then Jim Zub did some
he
Conan,
did.
like
But
some of
what
the last of
what
it.
they did wrong though was this. They you could feel that they wanted to do a real Conan story, but they didn't have the balls.
Yeah, you're
You
right.
you could feel it.
Uh, Oh
And
yeah,
if you go back like to the Dark Horse run of Conan, which is in my opinion, the only Conan run ever, that is
that's a good run.
freaking epic, dude. They
That's a
had the
real good run.
balls. They just did Conan, dude.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, I remember some of the covers on that. They actually like had to censor in the comic book shop.
oh yeah, but it was just raw because
It
thing
was raw.
that people forget about Conan is he's not a hero. He's not even a
No,
good guy. I
no,
mean,
he does some pretty bad stuff a
he
lot of
does.
times.
He's literally the guy will see a woman getting raped. He'll come up and chop the heads off the guys who are trying to rape the girl and then rape her himself. That's Conan,
Yes.
right? And it's this brutal, raw, clever masculinity. This rugged, rough, dangerous masculinity is why he's so appealing. And Howard understood that. He understood that very clearly. And the thing I do appreciate about his writing, because if you go, say, you read, Conan book, and then you go read a Solomon Kane book, they could not be more different. And it's like you can.
That's why he's such a good writer.
It's right, but you would be hard pressed to recognize that it is the same writer.
Oh
There,
yeah, yeah. Go
yeah,
read some of his westerns. You wouldn't
yeah,
even know.
yeah. But anyway, Dynamite we have seen doing some pretty good stuff, I think. And I have my
I've,
fingers crossed that they'll let Jim do what he wants to do.
I've read a lot of good Red Sonja stories from Dynamite, so I
Yeah,
think it'll probably be a good one.
yeah,
I
no,
might even check this out.
yeah, well, that's good. Roger says Roy Thomas's Conan was better than Dark Horse. Dude, I love me some Roy
No,
Thomas. I love Roy
I like
Thomas.
Roy Thomas,
No, dude,
but I don't
no.
agree because if you want like Conan as in Howard Conan,
Yeah,
Dark Horse hit it like out of the park.
yeah. It's not
Just
even
go read
comparable,
Howard's
dude.
stuff.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, read Howard's stuff, but these are adaptions of Howard's stuff, and it's
right. Really good.
the way Marvel drew Conan. He was a giant, but in Howard's writings, Conan's not actually a giant. He's more he's more visceral. He's more like a lean,
Yeah, no, he is.
muscular
He
type.
is. Yeah, I mean, he's not a little dude, but I mean, no, he's
No,
not
he's
what.
not
No,
little,
he's
but
not what
he's
Marvel's
not
doing.
Conan, as in like
Not
Arnold
Arnold
Schwarzenegger
Schwarzenegger.
Conan.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
No, yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to badmouth Roy Thomas ever. But
no, I love Warrior.
yeah,
I have so much Conan stuff. It's like if there's one comic I've collected for years and years, and I have like the biggest part of my collection, it's Conan, and then the second part is Red Sonja.
yeah. But I like both. I'll just say that, Roger. But the Dark Horse run is one of the best things I've ever seen them do. Um,
I
the
agree.
the only thing that would compare to me is what was it, Hawk something, Hawk World, or it was the one where the guy is taken out of a book, I know, but the guy is like dying of cancer or leprosy or something in the modern world, and somehow he gets transported back into this weird fantasy world, and
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I forget what it's called.
well, whatever the name of it was, that run coming out of the dark way, we're talking way back, Dark Horse. That was a
Let's pull
really
that
good
here.
run as well. But yeah, Roger, if you haven't read the Dark Horse Conan, go do that. Even the way they're presenting it and the setup is cool, because it's basically this prince that's traveling, is being told the story by his, what, I don't know, like his
Yeah,
priest or vizier, and that even has a
yeah,
twist of its own, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah. I
Um,
believe so.
yeah, no, it
By the
does.
end
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
pretty cool. But it's a cool twist actually. But but yeah. Anyway,
Well,
Red Sun.
they also released like straight up just graphic novel like just sized releases too
Yeah.
of just like one shot stories. But it was a good run on Conan for sure.
It was. Well, Thunder, what's your favorite comic book run of all time?
Oh, ooh. Yeah, I mean, the first one that popped in my head when you said that is the symbiote, the original symbiote saga Spider-Man.
Right.
But now that I think about it more, I'd still say probably um I think it was like 97 to like 2001, I think. Thor, that whole run there is just spectacular. It's probably the best Thor, one of the best Thors, period. It's so good.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. Now, I brought up Black Sunday Murder for a reason. We had this dude in here and we talked to him, right? We had an interview. It was a good
Yep.
interview with him, and the creator of Black Monday Murders. Is it Black Monday or Black Sunday? No, Black Monday.
It's
And
Black Monday.
it is. And it came into my mind because this is a really good storytelling, and the art is ridiculous, dude. It's
It is.
ridiculous,
It's next
and
level.
next level. And we talked to this guy, and he hadn't done any Black Sunday stuff in a while. Black Monday, sorry. And he was saying he was kind of his sick, and he seemed like he was depressed. There was something going on in his life, right? And we haven't seen anything since, man. And it's like, God, what a tragedy, dude. What a tragedy. Now they're putting Jonathan Hickman on this, and I'm sure he was involved, but we weren't talking to Jonathan Hickman. We were talking to the other guy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I
Yeah,
remember that interview. That was a good interview.
it was a good interview. Yeah, I don't remember what his name was, but it's just Tom Cocker. Yeah, and I would have been cool to have them both in here. I would have loved to talk to Jonathan Hickman, but we were talking to the
Good
artist,
luck
and
with that.
well, you know what I mean, because
Yeah,
he's done some amazing stuff, and it's not shocking that this was written by Jonathan Hickman, but the art is wow, dude. And unfortunately, we didn't, we just didn't get the end of it. We didn't get it, and oh my God, because it was running, it was really good, dude, really good. But this is one of the reasons why I will see like a TV show and people say, oh, it's pretty good, and it had a season or two, and then it got canceled and I don't watch them because I don't. I want to
yeah.
see completion, man.
Surprised.
I don't know,
Hmm.
but that was a good interview. You're right. We've had a few on here. You
Speaking
know,
of good interviews, I'm gonna plug it. Our boy Critical Drinker on his I think it was his second
Yeah.
channel.
yeah.
No, it's his regular channel. He
No,
just
it's his regular.
recently did an interview, which apparently he's unlisted for some reason. That's interesting. With Mark Millar,
All right. I
which
saw
is
that
pretty
earlier.
cool. Pretty cool. If you can get your hands on it, I'd recommend checking it out. It's just kind of what I've been saying, Chester, in a way that I think a lot of this zeitgeist is dying. This old stuff, because 5 years ago, a guy like Drinker would have never got an interview with Mark or somebody
I
like
know. I was
Mark. It just wouldn't have
amazed.
happened.
Yeah.
But Drinker's
Well,
one, his channel is absolutely massive now. It's 1.29 million subs, and
Good on him.
two, uh, he's just mostly correct in his critiques. Like
Yeah.
there have been very few where I could be like, well, he's just wrong. There have been some I've disagreed with,
Sure.
but there have been very few where I could just out and out say he was wrong. And it's largely because he's a professional author himself with multiple published books. Um, so it gives him a lot of weight in that world. The fact that he did it himself from the age of like 18 before he ever really started doing this critiquing stuff. Um, I just recommend watching that interview. I haven't watched all of it. I've watched just bits and pieces of it, but it's really good. Drinker actually, even though he plays the role of the drunken Scotsman, he's actually an incredibly intelligent interviewer. He's really good at it. The
Hmm.
couple that he's done have been great, so I
yeah.
recommend it. Even if you don't like his other stuff, go check that out to watch two men who are passionate about being creative just talk about being creative. It's very interesting.
Yeah. No,
It
that does
is.
sound good.
Yeah. It's a good interview. I also saw that Perch got Mark Miller,
Yep, he's
and
been
he's
doing the
interviewing
rounds.
him too.
Yep.
Well, didn't Netflix buy the Millar verse?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
And we
covered
haven't.
some of that in the interview.
Well, we did, does he? Okay, I guess I haven't seen. I saw I saw it pop up, but I haven't watched it because but we haven't seen anything from Netflix on that though. We haven't seen a
No,
single
that's
thing.
not true.
What have we seen?
Jupiter's Legacy is his.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
but they canceled that. Why did they cancel that? That people were actually it had some buzz around it. Why did they
I
cancel
think
that?
it's simply because they just spent way too much money on it. It was
Right,
so
I think
expensive to
you're
make
right.
that first season; they just didn't get a good return. And if they had,
Yeah.
especially considering the quality of some of the effects, they definitely could have turned that down and tightened that budget up. I don't know if it was just mismanagement on a business side from the producers, or if it was. I have no idea, but I think they just spent way too much money on it, and they just couldn't justify doing it again. I think the budget for that was like $200 million,
Oh wow.
and it's not even
Yeah, it's
close to
huge.
that quality. Like, look at it. It's.
Yeah.
I liked it, but visually and stuff, aesthetically, no, that ain't no two
There's
hundred million dollar
no way.
project.
Well, he
No
had
way.
no. He also had a recently, like I think 8 or so months ago, maybe a little sooner. Uh, he had Super Crooks that was animated, and it's on there.
Oh, was it? Okay, well, I didn't see it. I didn't know that. I had
Yeah.
forgotten that Jupiter's Legacy was related to him. Because I have certain things in my mind when it comes to Malar, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I did
yeah.
enjoy the comic book, and the series was fine. But you're right that when I heard we talked about it here. When I heard that price tag, I was like, what? What?
Yeah, that's obscene,
That's
obscenely high.
insane.
I don't understand what happened there, but no, there's
That
absolutely
sounds
no reason it should have been that much.
a lot of padding, I think. Because keep
Yeah,
in
Yeah.
mind, this Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power that's coming out, which is such a stupid name. But
it is
that one
so
is
bad.
$200 million for the season,
Yeah.
and it looks it.
Yeah.
It
Plus
looks it.
plus the 250 million they paid just to be able to use the name. So
Oh,
it's almost
it's
$500 million just at the front end of this to
right.
get this show out, and that's not including advertising. By the way,
Oh
that's
no,
not
no.
including the advertising budget.
Their plan and what we talked about it before, all the money involved in the plans and monies they've kind of committed. This is $1 billion project. We talked about
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
and it's such a freaking train wreck incoming, dude. It's
It is.
so dumb. I
And the
mean,
worst part is they spent all this money on the CG. The CG does look really good, no
it
doubt.
does.
It
It
looks
does.
good.
Yeah.
But then
It
they do
does.
things like look at the costuming, and at one point in the trailer, the one of the ladies, I think it's the Numenorian lady, the black one, who's wearing like that gold scale armor,
Hmm.
she's clearly wearing a t-shirt that just looks like gold scale armor, and then they put it like an armor piece over top of it. But because they
Oh
didn't
yeah.
have a full chainmail or a full scale mail armor for her, they use basically what looks like a t-shirt that just, and then you try to use like lighting tricks or whatever to make it look like actual armor.
Right.
I'm like, what? You spend all this money, you can't get some scale mail?
Well,
What the hell?
yeah, but what are they spending the money on is the question. Because
Yeah,
that's the question. And it's I really shocked what they're doing because you with that kind of money, you would think they would have played it safe and threw a
yeah,
black character here or a sex swap, a gender swap over there, right?
yep.
Sure, they're going to do that, but you figure they would have played it super safe. But no,
Nope.
just full on, SJW of the week crap, dude.
Yep.
I mean, in every single way, I have not seen a single thing coming out of that is
You know what
just
they could have
safe,
done?
middle of the road. None of it.
We've said some different ideas that would have made more sense than this overpriced fan fiction that they're doing.
Sure.
What they could have done is if they had done the Blue Wizards, one of them or one or both of them could have been black. There's
Yeah.
no it would have been
Yeah.
fine because we don't have an actual
Yep.
description of what they look like, I don't think.
They.
So
Yeah.
it would
No.
have been fine.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it
No.
would have been smarter.
No.
They could have done whatever they wanted, and
Yep.
to their heart's delight, and it would either have been good or bad. But yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Dum
Yeah.
dum dum. Dum
But
dum dum.
but the thing is, Adrian, over here, yeah, Thunder just said, we often have better ideas than these creatives anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty
Oh
bad.
yeah.
How sad is that?
I mean, it's
It's sad.
sad.
I'm a
It
history
seems to be
professor,
very
dude,
much a
and
seems to be very much a pattern though that like people with bad ideas get like
They
how
get
many people
promoted.
do you think that just get totally ignored because of their skill. It's like if you watch Rage's new video
Razor
where
Fist?
he's talking. Yeah, Razor Fist's new video
Mm-hmm.
where he's talking about like all these artists at this panel where Bendis just rips them apart, and he's like, these artists are better than any of the artists that they had at Marvel at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just rips them apart because it's nepotism.
Big
It is.
club, and you ain't in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's really what the industry's become. And maybe it's been that way forever, but
I
it's
think it's
real
always
bad
been
now.
that way as much as I've
I think
learned
it's
about
just
the
the
industry.
band-aids or the mask has fallen off entirely, and people see it for what
Exactly.
it is.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
look at all the artists we've had around us, Chester, who, and no offense to them, they're literal nobodies in the scene
Right.
overall compared to the Marvel guys or the DC guys, and they're fucking phenomenal.
They are.
Phenomenal artists, and they're not working for the big two. But then you see some of these books that they're putting out, and it looks like it was drawn by a 13-year-old. It's terrible, just terrible art, but objectively bad art
Yep.
in every possible respect. And it's being put out by the two largest companies in the world. And that was kind of his point in that video, that all that's become now is just a mechanism to keep in their people, whatever that means, right? If it's politically aligned or just friends and family, whatever, that's what it's become. And they've pushed meritocracy completely out of the window.
Oh, yeah.
And in that video, he says we don't have to ask their permission to replace them, and that's exactly what the plan is with Eric July and Van Sciver and him. These guys
Yeah,
who aren't really
they're
even
right.
aligned much outside of the fact that they don't like those people. And then the other thing that he did, which I think was very smart, is one of the problems we've had with things like Comicsgate or anti whatever, is if your only existence is to be against something, that's a dead end. That's a dead end street.
Well, it's a sad
He
life, is what that is.
and he sets out that whole idea, that terminology needs to go away, and I agree with him. And he wants to call it the Iron Age, the new Iron Age, because it's not going to be as pretty maybe as some of the other stuff, but it's going to be hard and fierce. Basically, was his idea.
Right.
And I don't hate that idea. I think that's fine, but I do agree in principle that being a gate or being an anti whatever is a dead end.
Yep.
There's no actual future there, and we've said that before. So we need to go create more. And I agree with him, and it's what I'm doing. It's what I know a lot of other people are doing. Even if it never becomes the biggest, most successful thing in the world, it doesn't matter, because the idea is to create a culture that has a lot of different people involved in it, that gets a lot of energy, and that energy becomes one cash, but it also becomes power over the culture. It's over the broader culture, which is what we should want to do, and it's what I think Eric July wants to do. It's pretty clear that's what he wants to do. He wants to influence the culture. Obviously, Ethan wants to do that as well. Whether successful at that or not, I think that is what he wants.
I think Ethan wants to line Ethan's pockets.
Well, of course, that's how you do it, though. You gotta have money to change culture.
Okay.
And Razor wants to do that as well. Razor's a big guy. He's big into pulp and that sort of noir. He likes that kind of stuff. He likes really old comics. He doesn't like, as he calls it, cape shit as much, but he likes the old days, right? The old pulpy
And he
stuff.
does, and he's got a lot more reach than Eric does.
Yes.
So and I agree with all that. And mention the comic book artists that aren't getting the time of day. Over here in this community, we do have a lot of great artists. I'll mention one, Keenma, right? A
Yep.
Canadian lady,
Yeah.
a lady,
Yep.
right? She's going to drop her comic here soon, and knock wood, but she's probably not going to make much money on it. But here's the thing,
Sadly.
because they don't. But here's the thing: if you take Keenma's art, her sequentials, by the way, her sequentials, and you put them side to side with whoever your top 10 artists in history are, you tell me that she's not in that category.
She's fantastic.
Everything I've seen, she's
It's
definitely in there.
right. So why is she not working somewhere? Why?
Because it's a club.
Yeah, but
It's a
she's a
club, and if
woman,
you're not in
though.
it,
And
yeah,
she
but
and
if you're not in the club or you don't know how somebody to put your foot in the door, it doesn't matter. And I don't think it's always been that way. Obviously, it's always been who you know, not what you know, in pretty much every industry ever. But I think it's a lot worse now because one, the industry isn't as successful, or nor does it have the purchase in the broader culture that it used to. And I think that's a big problem for a lot of these people. And I think we're seeing it. I mean, like I said, you can look at some of these books, and the art is abysmal. It's nowhere near a standard. Like if Jim Shooter was in charge of Marvel, holy crap, that wouldn't be putting out.
No,
It's
never.
just
Yeah.
not. It's just not to their standards, or at least the standards we all understood and grew up with. And we know artists personally, like Kima, who can hit who can surpass those standards way better
Right.
than anything we're seeing right
But
now. And yet somehow nobody from these companies, they don't have recruiters. They don't have
I'll
people
give
out
you.
here watching art
I don't.
channels and
You
art
would.
things. And
Yeah.
I'll
why
And
give you
wouldn't you
another
have that?
example. What about Jiminy, man?
Yeah,
Jiminy or John Dillard or
Dillard.
John
Dillard?
Daly or any of those. Yeah.
I mean, any of them. Yeah.
Hey, I'm waiting for the Shadow to be public domain too, Devilish, because I got some ideas. Shadow's a great character. He could be fun to play with.
Yeah, it would be. But I mean, and like you were mentioning there, don't we have talent scouts? I mean, because
Yeah,
there's, I
where are they
mean,
at?
this is like for instance, this is a well, the Drone and Quarter show is bigger than our show, but these shows, but we are connected to the umbrella of Comicsgate, and is there any
Right.
way that a comic book or artist talent scout wouldn't come and check it out? That you would think, right?
I would. If I
You
was them, unless I
you
was told not
absolutely,
to. I would. Why wouldn't you?
yeah,
I mean, if
because.
there's potential for great art, there's potential for great art.
Yeah,
That
and
should be what matters,
and
right?
yeah, it's true. And keep in
Well,
mind
it doesn't though. It doesn't matter.
right, but keep in mind at the end of
That's the
my
reality.
show, at the end of that show, every week, what do? I let them all say where they are. So anyone
Right.
Yeah.
listening, whether they're chatting and they're in the chat or not, but anybody listening can get into contact with them very easily. I know for some
Right.
people, you guys probably shut it off at that moment and you're done with it, and that's fine. But I do that intentionally so that if anyone's looking for them, they can find them easy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's, dude. There's a lot of these guys who easily could do what's going on, and we have some guys that should be legends. Keenma should be a legend already because
Yep.
it's
Dillard should have been working at one of the major companies 2 years ago. Like he's
Yeah.
that good. Even if you don't like John Dillard, whatever, I don't care. As far as an artist goes, you'll never hear me say anything bad about his art. His
no,
art's next
Yeah.
and
level. It's
and
unbelievably good.
I'll
it
agree with
is.
you there.
Yeah, and when we were doing that project that didn't get off the ground for various reasons,
Yep.
but that was hurting cats, to be honest with you. But uh, I end up having to write. I end up writing almost all those comics, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were real serious comic book anthology book. It was serious. There was some really good art in there, some great artists. But John was doing several things. I was working with him on that, so I got a lot of proofs because John and Kevin and a couple other guys were actually doing the work. The other people weren't. Right.
Right.
So John
Well,
would throw me proofs, and I would say, "Oh, we'll change this. Let's do this different in this panel, or what have you." Just I'm assuming what writers and artists do all the time. I just assume. But Jesus, dude, the proofs from John Dillard. I mean, insane, dude, insane. I was doing this story where there's this little girl, and she's mainly a story. She's in her little room, and she's talking to her little stuffed animal bear, and you could tell she's scared, and she gets hiding on the bed. And she's got a little knife hid and stuff, and these people and these come in, and they're acting like mom and dad, but it's weird, right? It's a short story, of course. In the end,
Right.
they're using her for as a sacrifice in a demonic sacrifice. She's a kidnapped kid, and in the end, the bear turns out to be alive. And for a moment, you think that the bear is going to save her life, but no, the bear kills her first, takes his sacrifice because he is the demon, and then he kills all the cultists too. Imagine John Dillard doing that kind of R-rated book
Oh my
because
gosh.
I
Yeah.
saw it, and it's
Yeah.
fucking awesome, is what it is.
Yeah.
And I love the twist I put on the end of that too, because I laid it in to where you think the girl's going to survive it. She does not.
Mhm.
right? Because she's just a victim here, and it's just some devil worshiper is going to sacrifice a kid for what that kind of stupid stuff. But
Right, right.
it was really I liked the clever twist in it. John liked it a lot too. But what his imagination did with it in those panels was really good, and he finished so much of it too, dude. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, look at House too, right? Like
Oh yeah. He's more of a
House
yeah.
is outstanding artist as well.
Yeah, and he does more of a almost like a cartoony-ish type of thing, but he does it really well. His Astro City thing is wonderful. It's
Yeah.
really well done. But I mean, we could go on and on and on praising these amazing artists we see. But keep in mind, in the years we've been doing Drawn a Quarter, what is the total? Almost 200 artists.
I
Yeah.
don't know anymore. Yeah, probably somewhere around that.
And I would say that a good 60% of them are really good, and a good 10% of them are, there's no reason they shouldn't be working.
I mean, a lot of them they got on this show and then moved on to like Mike's show and stuff, and got even more
Yeah, but the only
out
one
there.
who's really gotten a lot of work, I would say, is Matt. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
Matthew is ridiculous. So good on him for that. We've seen what's his name? Ink Spots. He's got some
Mhm.
work, and he's amazing
Yeah.
as well. Jiminy, of course, Jason, he has his own company anyway. I mean, he does company,
Sure.
he's
Sure.
a corporate guy. And he's, so he's fine. But no, Jiminy, I mean, we talk about, I mean, Adrian, I see Grimlux in here too. Name who, in your opinion, which artist captures motion best?
Ooh, that's tough.
It is tough.
There's been some pretty good ones that capture motion. I
There have
mean,
been. I think McFarlane does a really good job, actually.
yeah,
But there
yeah.
are there, you think about it, there's going to be ones that come to
I
your
mean,
mind.
are we talking just artists out of all comic artists or artists in general?
Yeah, I'm
Like
just
we're
talking
talking
about
about.
comic book artists
I
who
mean,
in a two-dimensional image, it's that thing is so dynamic and so moving.
there's always Kirby.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Kirby
He did it in a
was like
clunky way.
watching.
It's very clunky though.
Yeah, it's very stylized, but
Yeah.
it's still very much movement.
Well, my point,
There's
Adrian, is
there's
compare
there's a
that to
Flash
Jiminy.
artist.
Oh no,
Yeah,
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 I know what you talk about, but compare that to Jiminy Cricket. That, Jason,
yeah.
it's
No,
insane how much movement he gets out of a two-dimensional image. I don't know how
he
he does
he
it.
is. Yeah, he's good at it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna talk about like the group of people in our group, he's probably one of the best that gets motion.
I think he is the best. He's one of the best I've ever seen. I mean,
Yeah.
you just go back and take a look at that Black Manta art he did.
Oh yeah, I remember
Holy,
that.
dude, holy shit. But anyway, hello, Grimlock.
Hi, hello. Mind if I jump in?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Um, cause funny thing, I was talking to Thundara about this last night after the stream. I told him I had a theory about the entertainment industry in general, why they are having a hard time. Like, cause we've seen some of the same nonsense permeate, not just through the entertainment industry, whether it be comics or movies or whatnot, but we've seen it in like the major sports leagues. But one thing that the sports leagues do, I guess by default better than them, is that what you guys was talking about here, there's always somebody new.
Mm,
And there's always somebody new that you can wrap your arms around. And people like getting attached to things like that. And with the comic industry right now, at least the way it's been for the last 10 years, because of the people who are in it, and let's just call it what it is, the people who are in it who are gatekeeping it
yeah,
have been able to use their power and influence to keep it as self-contained as possible, to where we're seeing it right now. I mean, we're seeing it right now where the same people over and over are getting work that they quite frankly don't deserve. And like you said, you got guys, and you're drawn and quartered right now
Mm.
doing it just for the fuck of it. You blow these guys out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Like there is no good reason, like, why. Well, we know the reason why, but there's no good reason why you should have the people working on the X-Men books that are currently working on the X-Men books. And I'm not just talking about the writers, I'm talking about some of the artists too.
A lot of
Yeah.
the artists too.
Where you have somebody like Kingma and John Diller. And hell, even what's amazing? That girl Amy, for as much as they talk about wanting to do an
Yeah.
all ages book, that girl would be a star doing an all
Yeah.
ages comic
Yep.
with the
Kids
way she
comics.
draw.
Yep.
Yeah.
She would be an absolute star, and she has the personality to go with it. She would be an absolute fucking star.
Well, she has.
But
If you want diabetes,
Yes.
hey,
She's
hey,
way too
I
sweet.
mean, I'm in the South. They only do tea down here one way. Diabetic.
that is fair. That is fair. No, I love Amy. She's a nice girl. But no, I agree. And we see a lot of people. Andrew, who's been with us for many
Yeah,
months now, that guy
I
is
mean,
killer. And he's trying to do on his own. A lot of the guys are trying to do on their own. And I know we're not naming everybody, but we're talking about
yeah.
people who we could easily see dropped into a big comic book at any moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like they're like John Dillard and Keenma and Jiminy. The fact that those three right there don't have jobs in the business,
yeah, yep.
like like I told people, like I was actually reading the current run of She-Hulk, which the story is surprisingly good, but the art for a Marvel book, no, no,
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, and
But
that,
those people got jobs, and you got somebody like Kima who would blow them out of the water, and and God forbid she's drawing sober, uh, she would she would blow these guys out of the water. She's sitting over there with half the time when I'm listening to the stream, she's over there with some Crown Royal just
no,
killing
no,
it.
she's drunk off her ass most of the time. That's true. But hey, she's having fun. It's her
I
relaxing
know that's
time,
what I'm
and
saying,
I'm
but
happy with it.
I'm saying she's doing a better job just pissing around on a Thursday than people who are apparently getting paid, and most of that is because they have an industry where right now, because of the way it's been, and hopefully with the shakeup over at Warner and Discovery with Zaslav, that you got people who are being kept out for whatever reason, whether it's philosophical or political, whatever reason they're being kept out, they're being kept out where people are keeping just the little circle jerk of friends going.
Hmm.
And it's not like before. Yeah, people could say that the comic book industry has always been that way, because if you look at even during the 70s and 80s, you saw a lot of the same talents going back and forth between DC and Marvel. But the thing is, those guys was talented.
Yeah, and you really
It
want to
wasn't
talk about
filling
going
check
back to
boxes.
Stan Lee time, because it was really Stan that pushed for a constant search for artists, right? And
Yep.
Yeah,
uh,
but they're not doing that anymore.
Is
no,
that back then there was probably far less people trying to get in that industry at that time
right,
too.
because it had gone through a lull, right? Because the
Right.
Yeah.
Comics Code Authority, which we've talked about here. But
But
yeah,
also
no,
there also wasn't Netflix and things like that where people are using this industry to springboard themselves to Netflix deals.
Yeah.
right. That's another
Basically.
That's
problem. Yeah.
back then. Somebody said. I think I was reading a comment on one of Thinking Critical's videos. Is that one of the biggest difference about those is those guys wanted to be in the industry. Like Paul Dini and J. Michael Straczynski was already doing TV a decade in before they got to comics, and they went to comics and they didn't have to, but they wanted to.
Sure. Yeah.
These guys, they don't want to be there. They want to be in Hollywood, but they don't have the talent. But they know somebody
You know,
at these companies apparently.
and another point to make is these companies are about making money, if it's about making money, there's another
Hasn't
thing
been
that,
that way.
well, but if they
It
were,
don't look that way.
if it decides to shift that way, you got to keep in mind one of the things that we have going on now is in this culture war, uh, is a lot of men checking out. There's
Yeah.
checking out, marriage, dating, just checking out. Huge swaths of them. And the thing about men, especially if they got money in
Yep.
their pocket because they're not married or not dating, they we love our hobbies, right?
Yeah.
And if you had some killer stories with killer art, you would be making bank right
Yes.
now.
Yep.
If
Yeah.
it's just everything's been pushed back, everyone's kind of, because it's become wokeified, so that everyone's just kind of backed off and they're not even paying attention anymore.
Yeah.
Uh,
And and,
yeah,
and if I could circle back to a thing you brought up just before that, I kind of disagree a little bit. You said that about Eric July's influence compared to Razor's. I think a lot of people, including Eric, underestimated his reach because of
Yeah.
the sheer number of money he's put up within a week,
yeah,
and not just the money. Because $2.5 million is incredible in 7 days, but over I think he's got what 30,000 people backing him. He's
yeah, no,
already
yeah,
on
yeah,
this first campaign alone. To think about this, because when he said he wanted to compete and people said he couldn't, I want people to realize that right now 30,000 backers he's already cleared at least a third of Marvel's current catalog monthly on just that, and he's got 65 days left to go. So I want people to realize he's already outsold like the Miss Marvels and the book, the books that they keep telling you are so popular that gets constantly rebooted. He's already outsold Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel and Black Panther. He's already encroaching on some of the lower end Avengers books
yeah. No, I know
right
he is,
now,
and he does have more
and that's
subscribers
incredible.
than Razor Fist. I know that, but that's not why I
Well, no,
said that. When I said that
well,
was
no, I
because
mean, the,
Razor's more
I mean,
diversified than July.
well, that's what I'm saying in terms of like, because people forget he came from the music industry first, so he's brought the heavy metal audience. Then he got into the more political commentary with the Blaze, so he's got that audience now. And
Fair.
for the people who was following him for his comic stuff, so he's got three different kinds of audiences that are kind of some of that audience is intersected, but you got three different kind of audiences coming. So I think he initially underestimated how many people would do that because yeah,
Well, let's
like
not
going back
forget
to the
that he did an interview with Fox and Friends or on Fox or something too.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm happy for him,
and
dude. I hope
and
it's
and
well written. Is really what I have to
yeah,
say.
and the fact that the New York Post and Fox News covered that when he covered it that he cleared $2 million, both of them covered it. So that's huge reach. I mean, what he's doing right now is pretty unprecedented. And if the book is good, that's going to be even better because that means that second campaign could be even more insane.
Yeah, that's what I said. I hope it's good, so that he can actually make some money. But and he has made some money. But keep in mind that Razor, as well, has made
Oh
some
yeah,
pretty good money off of his Long
well,
Moonlight.
his the new book that he just announced over the weekend. I don't know if you saw it, but he was on a Neurotic stream on Friday, and he just announced the new books that he's having George Alexopoulos doing the illustration for.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good damn team up,
Yeah, and he might
considering
want to think of
George's
doing
work.
the crowdfunding route this time instead of just the Amazon sales. But I don't have direct numbers like we can get for the Rippaverse. But
Yeah,
I know Razor made a lot of money on that book, dude.
yeah, dude. I still need to get that book. Um, so
It's highly reviewed, so it's like a 4.5. So, but
nice.
yeah. Anyway, I think we've come to it. Oh God, it's 1:30. Oh well. But I definitely got to get to work. I have stuff to do today. My dog is looking at me in the puppy dog way, and he's not a puppy, so it's bad. You know.
Aw.
But yeah, no, he's
What's the treat?
well, my wife, because he's been having some trouble, and he had to get his annual shot. They're
Oh
very
yeah.
strict about animals over here. And she talked to the doctor, and he kind of said, "Well, I wouldn't expect them to last. He's got less than a year in him, right?"
Hmm.
And that was a big shock to my wife, so she's pampering him and stuff now. I'm not allowed to
Aw.
yell at him anymore.
Uh-oh.
No, just give him a treat. Give him a little scratch behind the ears.
Well, I do that too. But he does not like these super 4K TV. I got a really nice Sony in here, right? And it's
Yeah.
brand new TV, and it's just, my God, dude. But he doesn't like it. He does not like it. He wants to go back to the HD. That was more acceptable. This 4K is not right, and he just loves to bark at it. So I'm like, no, stop that. She's like, you have to be nice to him. He's gonna be dead soon. I'm like, oh God, Jesus. Oh well,
I love it.
women. You know, it is what it is. I think the dog. He's had a good life here for sure. He certainly did what he was purchased for. And
Yeah.
yeah, he's good on him. But oh well. I got a crying wife coming sooner than later.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's always fun.
Yeah, it is. The good thing is I went out and I bought myself a new funeral suit here recently. Because I have some suits, but they're not perfectly appropriate for the Japanese funeral attire. So I went and bought something that was very specific, because I know we have a string of funerals are incoming with the family and stuff
Mm.
because they're super old. But I guess I'll have to be wearing one for a dog too.
Yep. Got to.
I'll have to make him a little wooden coffin box, and I'll make sure I measure him when my wife is in the room.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this guy, huh?
Come on,
This
that's
guy.
funny, dude. That's funny. What are you doing? What is that? I'm just, I'm going to make something special for
This guy.
him. Anyway, I
This
gotta
guy.
go. So, Adrian, you got anything to say to close?
No, not really.
Grimlock?
Everybody enjoy your night. Hope it's not too hot where you're at, because it's certainly hot where I'm at.
Oh yeah, no, it's
It's
definitely
pretty
hot.
common.
That's true. Keep in mind tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do have Bugbear's Basement, and we will doing episode 11 of Imperious, and we're having fun with that. So come and check it out if that's your shtick. Although I've been told the last episode was boring, Chester. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll do
Oh
better. I'll
God.
I'll do better. I'll do better. I got too science fictiony with it, and not enough combat, I think, is a problem. But
Could be,
oh,
yeah.
oh well, storytelling and all. But Thundero, take us out of here, man.
Very simple one. It's about goodness. Good men can have done good things. I'm sorry, can have done bad things and still be good men. Goodness is not something you did or something you are. Good is what you do. Virtue is not passive. Do good and be good.
Mm. Namaste. Later, everybody.